off all meds now through June 30th. A great deal. No insurance needed, plus prescriptions and delivery are included. Just choose from more than 200 medications like ivermectin and more. Please visit allfamilypharmacy.com/bill. Use the code BILL20 for 20% off today. allfamilypharmacy.com/bill, code BILL20. That is the Morning O'Reilly Update. More analysis later on.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Dry night tonight, low of 70 degrees, but more clouds for Thursday. Even a few showers are possible in the late morning to afternoon. Better chance southwest of St. Louis, but we may see a light shower sneak into the metro. Otherwise, a high of 87 and more clouds for Thursday. Friday, a good chance for showers and thunderstorms, some isolated downpours, noticeably more humid, too, with a high of 82. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Let's get the conversation started, St. Louis. This is Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
As each day rolls on, we're getting more information regarding what it's going to look like in St. Louis over the next few days. So how much of this protest movement is likely to get violent, and what can we do to keep, frankly, ourselves and even those lunatic fringe left idiots safe as well? They want the trouble. They want the violence. Obviously, we don't. We're not going to back down, but let's not go out of our way to give them what they want. So those updates are going to come your way throughout the morning here. Hey, good morning, Mike Ferguson. Happy Thursday to you. Also here in just a little bit, Riley Gaines gets an apology. Yeah, it turns out that going woke is not a guaranteed way to win an online argument. Simone Biles found that out the hard way. So I'll tell you what happened, and then the question is, should we just accept the apology for what it is and move on? That tends to be what I think. Or you've got a different take on it, let me know. I'll give you those details here in just a little bit. Speaking of the riots and speaking of the so-called protests that are spreading all over the country, including here in St. Louis, our buddy Tony Kinnett joined us. Of course, he's with the Daily Signal and gave us his take on this. And as always, Tony pulls no punches. Here's what he had to say. All right, if you're catching wind of just a little bit here. So, Tony, we've got the expansion of the LA riots across the country, because no kings, but this has already turned violent in areas like Austin and Chicago. We know there's going to be hundreds, if not thousands, of these things planned over the weekend in particular. And here's the thing, Tony, this is not about winning minds or changing hearts. This is not about winning.
It's about
votes.
losing the midterm, and my God, are they doing their best?
Yay! Let's go.
Did you see? So I'm in this exact chair, exhausted last night, prepping for a top news intend to air at 5 a.m. And I get sent. My phone starts blowing up. I mean, it's like producer Jerome just found a new match on Tinder, and I'm like, as quickly as I can, rushing over to see what's going on. And boy, howdy, do I find that it's New York Police Department beating the ever-living crap out of all of these keffiyeh-wearing, Palestinian flag-wearing goobers. And they deserve it because they're just about violence. That's all this is about. They like to claim it's about no kings. Mm-hmm. And it's just about no votes because that's what they're heading for.
Now, Tony, Gabe here. And one of the things that I keep coming to with these seasonal disruptions that we seem to be getting.
Seasonal disruptions.
Right? It's riot season.
It's riot season, man. You got to get your bulletproof umbrella out. But only until Memorial Day. And after that, you can't wear bulletproof vest or the wrong colors. At least not in white.
That is just tacky.
It's tacky, yes. So how these things seem to be funded to me. I mean, these are professionally printed signs of various sorts. They've got their choice of color of brick to throw. They have the various face shields against the use of pepper spray and things like that. The typical riot dispersal equipment that the police are given. So who is funding all of this?
So I've got this question a couple of times, and not to be rude, but this question matters to me a lot less than making sure first and foremost that the National Guardsmen that are on the ground, that the Marines that are on the ground, that the LAPD or the NYPD or the Chicago Police Department, who they really don't want to screw with after I watched them smack people with an 1898 polished mahogany wooden truncheon across the teeth, which was the greatest thing I've ever seen. If I would rather those officers, first and foremost, before any other questions are asked, can we switch from these non-lethal rubber rounds to rounds containing 99% lead as a prescription? And I'm not joking. I'm not trying to be, like a bloodlust or whatever like that. I'm serious when I suggest that we need to make sure that actions have consequences. And when attempted murder and thrown concrete are what is the order of the day, then it's responded to in kind. A little bit of tear gas and pepper spray and a couple of rubber rounds so that the guy that committed attempted murder runs off. That's not useful. So first of all, we need to make sure they're protected. Past that to who's funding it. Yes, I want to see Act Blue investigated. Yes, I want to see George Soros investigated. But knowing how the Republicans are handling things so far, as excited as I am for a strongly worded letter, I would like to see some rubber exchanged for lead first so that our officers and troops are safe.
We're visiting with Tony Kinnett from the Daily Signal. So Tony, I mean, even the, like I said, the thickest of the meatheads on the left, they know they're not winning the votes with this. They know they're not. So what's the goal here? What's the end game? Why expand this if you know all you're going to do is piss off people and make their lives miserable when that's the goal? But what is it they think the end game is here?
So ironically enough, actually, there's not a set answer on this, and there is a huge amount of division. So no one's talked about this over the weekend. There was a major leak from the DNC from Politico. And I mean, when I say no one's talking about this, I mean, as a wager, do you guys know what I'm talking about yet? This major leak from Politico?
No, not at all.
Ken Martin, head of the DNC, was on record on an audio call that was not supposed to get leaked. So, off the record, saying that he doesn't want to lead the Democrat Party anymore. He can't do it. David Hogg screwed everything up. The party is a two-headed horse galloping in different directions. The party is in tatters. He said it's not the stress. It's that this party doesn't work. I can't do this. And it's humiliated the party. All of the Democrat strategists right now. So it's interesting you said that they all know this isn't a good idea. That's not true. Only a few Democrat strategists, the moderates, and like John Fetterman of Pennsylvania know this is a horrible thing. That's why none of those people are tweeting about it. Seriously, you go look at like Kurt Bardella's Twitter feed. He's not tweeting about Los Angeles at all. All you're seeing is a bunch of these hyper progressive, insane people and tweeting about this because they just want to riot and burn things down. And when you ask what their end game is, they'll tell you. They put up the mic to the individuals on the ground in LA and they say, and I quote, communist revolution, end quote. Their words, not mine. So the Democrat Party is royally screwed over here. The end game for those in the swing states in the middle of the country is not just whistle past the graveyard, get out Ode to Joy and sing past the graveyard and pray to God that people forget about this by November. And at this point, it ain't looking like it.
I mean, it's amazing that a party would not function when you make Karine Jean-Pierre and David Hogg the faces of your party. I just
it's surprising, yeah. So we joked about the next election kind of being lost by these sorts of things, but how solid is that prediction at this point? I mean, the Republicans are screwing up, some of these the priorities that we sent them in to do. So I think they're not firing exactly on all cylinders. But of course, we see what the left is doing. We see how discombobulated Democrats are doing. How likely is it for the unprecedented to happen in that the Republicans retain power or even gain in the House and Senate?
So can the Republicans clear the bar that's ankle high right now?
Yeah, basically that's the question.
So whenever I get out my serious calculus of prediction to mark up the elections of the future, the first thing I know is that Republicans have the uncannily godlike ability to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yep.
And it's incredible. I've never seen anything like it. We all know that. They're terrible when it comes to last minute stuff. Number two, distractions are incredible. And I'm sure that right before we get to the election, you're going to have like Marjorie Taylor Greene, challenge AOC to like mud wrestling on the House floor. And that's just going to wreck the election. I'm sure. And then number three,
I would watch that though.
The mental image.
I know
man.
you would. You're welcome. Good morning, St. Louis. So those things all said, I don't believe at the present time that it's a done deal. However, I will say that this is a serious stinker for the Democrats to get over.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't get over Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Now that's coming back to haunt them quite literally. I hope they keep Kilmar in the country just so someone can drag him on marionette strings around Senator Chris Van Hollen for eternity, like Marley from A Christmas Carol.
The chains rattling.
We're Kilmar and Kilmar. Sorry. I'm not sure that they expect massive electoral swings. The real question is who's going to be able to get people to the polls because they're energized. Right now, the Democrats have no one. Voting is like going to the DMV. Everyone hates it. I mean, let's not pretend that it's like some easy, wonderful, amazing thing. It's not. It sucks. So whichever party can make it suck less for their voters and get people to jump that ankle-high bar is going to be able to win. And right now, the Democrats aren't going to be able to get anyone out in the swing states. Number one, because you're going to have to get your tetanus shot. Otherwise, you're going to get shivved on the way there. So.
Yeah, it is. Tony Kinnett, Daily Signal. I want to get tell everybody about your show here in just a second. Last minute or so we are expecting, whatever's going to happen here in St. Louis, all over the country. We know that the target is us, being the American people. They want to disrupt. They want to make us miserable. What are the types of things we should realistically brace ourselves for over the next few days?
You can brace yourself. So I've unfortunately been making predictions that are a little more dead on than I'd like. And that's not a brag. That's just how bad some of these things are. You are going to see acts of domestic terror because the Democrats have openly argued that it's totally fine for Molotov cocktails, as Nancy Pelosi says. That's just over exuberance.
Yeah.
So that's what's coming down the line. And I hate to say it, but that's just where we're going. So prepare for that. Be safe. Be aware of where you are. Don't make any sudden movements. Don't be in a position where you're going to get cornered in. If you're living in a major city like St. Louis, go Cards. So I hate to see that, but you can watch my show over out of Indianapolis. You search Tony Kinnett on Google, you'll find me. Twitter @TheTonus, TheTonus. If you're a masochist.
Yes, which we've already tagged you on social media to try to enable.
Let's retweet that.
Yes, right. Let's do that as well. All right, and Tony, of course, all your shows available on podcast. You're everywhere, basically.
Oh yeah. You head over to Apple Podcasts. That helps us the best, and of course, the most important thing possible gets me that all important internet clout that we all subsist off of.
That's right. All right, Tony Kinnett, Daily Signal, man. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. We'll have you back on soon, my friend.
Thanks, sir.
Take care, guys.
All right, if you're catching wind of something going on in your part of the metro area, let me know. Send us a note. Send us either on social media in the comments or the Rumble chat box, or just shoot us an email and let us know so that we can all go into this weekend, frankly, with eyes wide open, because my worry, it's going to be ugly in some places. Hopefully not as ugly as we're seeing in other areas, but we know something's going down. So we'll keep you as prepared as we can right here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
News, analysis, opinion.
Isn't it wonderful that we're keeping criminals out of our country?
How the mayors in these sanctuary jurisdictions are dealing with it, that's interesting.
Safety is our primary concern.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Dude, this house is perfect. Crumbs everywhere, sticky counters. I've already texted the colonies.
Sweet, I'll bring my 500 cousins. This'll be the biggest ant rager of the summer.
Wait, what's that sound? Oh, no, it's those trucks with the green wheels. Party's over, man. Party's over.
This is Derek, the owner of All Solutions Pest Control. We'd love to help you out. Give us a call today at 636-486-7888 to learn more about our special $67 offer.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
Jamie Allman here for O'Fallon Family Floors. Experience the passion. Oh, yeah. You can go in and see the best variety, the best pricing, the best quality, the best personalized service right there off of Highway K in O'Fallon, or you can have the store come to you. Oh, yeah. Brian and his team take great pride in running a fantastic flooring outlet, and you can get their 5-star ratings right there on Google. Just check it out. It's O'Fallon Family Floors, O'FallonFamilyFloors.com.
Remember those magical moments in Mom's kitchen? The heavenly aroma of fresh baked cookies? At Trolley Stop Bakery in Chesterfield's Forum Shopping Center, our co-op of talented bakers has been perfecting that homemade magic for 4 decades. From the gooeyest cookies in town to custom pies, cobblers, and cakes, everything's made from scratch, just like Mom and Grandma's recipes. Need that perfect corporate gift? We ship our famous cookies nationwide. The Trolley Stop Bakery, 67 Forum Shopping Center, or TrolleyStopBakery.com. Because some traditions are too sweet not to share.
Springtime often means storms. Don't let a fallen tree ruin your day. Call Hanson's Tree. Look them up at hansonstree.com. Hanson's, your expert insured tree care specialist in the St. Louis region and well beyond. In addition to taking care of all the messes, they can take care of beautiful things as well. Organic mulch, tree trimming, grinding, and land clearing, green waste recycling. Let the expert arborist at Hanson's take care of all the tree care for your home or business. 24/7 at hansonstree.com, hansonstree.com.
Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
All right. While the protests immediately turned to riots in other cities, they were more subdued here, at least so far.
Which is great news. Now, other great news is that our News Talk STL newsletter comes out today, which you can sign up for free at newstalkstl.com.
You know, the funny part is that, I mean, yes, I'm supposed to promote that, not to pull the curtain back too much, but we're supposed to promote that. But we actually really do a good job with that. It's a lot of fun. I actually enjoy reading it, even though I basically know what's going to be in it every week. That really is cool. And you get that Todd Showalter cartoon as well. All right, 550. A couple things here. First of all, just a quick note. And you know, it's kind of weird that I'm mentioning it because you can't sign up for it anymore. I guess midday today, our boss, Jeff, and I are going to be out at Reach Reproductive Health's luncheon. So basically, they want the entire pro-life movement, particularly the church, and I mean like capital C, just like the community of faith-based Christians. And so there's a luncheon out there for them to network and then find out what Reach is doing. I am going to be there. I'm not speaking at it, but they did invite us specifically because we've got such a good partnership with Reach. And so Jeff and I are going to be there. So if you are going to be there, or somebody from your church or your pro-life organization is going to be there, find me. Come say hi. I'd love to meet. And then we can chat. This is going to be a really good networking because things are only going to be more and more and more challenging when it comes to saving lives. And so I'm trying to be really careful in the pro-life side of things to not differentiate, but necessarily, but understand that there's the political and policy side, which is crucial to saving lives. And then there's the don't rely on politicians. We have to do the work. And that's what Reach is doing here. So, you know, if you're pro-life, don't say, well, what do you do to be pro-life? And say, well, I vote GOP. You know, I vote for pro-life candidates. That's fantastic. But that's not actually fully being pro-life. If you say it's important to you, you got to do more than that.
Yeah, when we had Levy in the studio, that's something that I really appreciated about what he was saying about it. It's not just a rally to say, let's continue voting for this. It was creating a network and community of people.
Right.
Because you can outlaw certain things and people are still find ways around that. But if you provide the resources to help them make that decision to support life, that is way more effective, in my opinion. That sounds like it's going to be a great luncheon. So
yeah, and we need both. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we need both, but this is not about the politics, you know, at all. So, but I'm going to be there. Find me, say hi. Love to meet as many of you as absolutely possible out there. So, all right, 552. Okay, so let's talk about what's going on with the protest here. And what was interesting is I got word, and actually somebody sent me a copy of the, I guess, recruitment, kind of a digital flyer of the people who were trying to organize the TAM overpass protest. And what was interesting is they were specifically saying, if you're not willing to be arrested, if you're not willing to resist, you know, then do these other things. But they were specifically looking for people who were willing to engage. And I texted you and Gabe. I said, I'm getting word that they're looking for agitators.
Oh, they are.
But that's not what they got at the Tam overpass. Basically, it went the way that it was supposed to. And I've got a few more details here in the news dump, and then we'll go into a little more depth a little bit after that. But then you've got the one downtown that happened. And it looks to me like these were two completely separate groups of people and separate organizers. Now, what happens is these groups, they identify a date and they're like, okay, hey, they're doing that. We can do something too. But I don't know that they were coordinated. It didn't look like it, because the one in downtown St. Louis was more radical. It was like, you know, it was an overtly socialist organization.
Yeah.
You know, so it was, they were looking for, frankly, they did block streets. The police department allowed them to, which is frustrating. But then again, the police are like, well, we're understaffed as it is, you know, so they were getting alerts. I was following along on Twitter with their spokesman, and they were like, traffic is being affected, which means we're letting them commandeer the streets.
Which is unfortunate.
Which is not violent, but it's not peaceful.
Yeah, I mean, and the slogan that I've seen so many people quote back to me about this right now is, you know, well, protests are meant to disrupt. It's like, yeah, but is this really the way you think you're getting people on your side? Now, when it comes to the blocking the streets, I mean, strategically, I guess that for the police to keep them safe and all that stuff,
it's tactically.
Yes, it's like we can let them be in the streets, just redivert traffic, or we can make it a whole mess, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yes, to your other point, though, yes, absolutely. Just don't think that all of these events that are going on, all these knucklehead morons gatherings, are all the same groups. There are many groups right now, including people from out of state, that are trying to get in on the action and bring it here and force it. They want this to be a national burning of the Summer of Love again. That's what they're hoping for.
You see, that's a good point, because that's what I was thinking about a little bit earlier on this, is that the ones that we had, you know, one was truly by definition peaceful. I mean, it's exactly what they should have done, even though I completely
props to them for that.
Right, which I completely disagree with their message, but I absolutely 100% support from what we know of what happened. And I did not go to the Tam overpass. I just looked at the coverage of it and watched it. But from what we know, that's precisely how you're supposed to do it. Now, again, I think they're 100% wrong on the issue. And frankly, I don't think they were telling the truth, you know, when they were talking about to the reporters. They're either ill-informed or they're just dishonest. But either way, the way that they did it, absolutely, I support your right to do that. Now, the ones downtown, though, I'm looking at that going, they're gearing up. That's my concern, because to your point, let me get to what you just said. And that is, okay, so who's going to be here by Saturday? You know, these were probably the local radicals, and there were a few dozen or whatever it was. But once you bus in the agitators, that's when things get ugly. That's kind of what we saw in Ferguson, you know, all those years ago, you know, 10, 11 years ago. And first of all, there was the conflict and there was violence. And then what happened is the Antifa and the radical types, that took them about a day and a half to get here. And then stuff went down. And then stuff got really, really, really bad. These are the people who are looking to try to, like you said, basically burn down the country, burn down communities that aren't theirs.
Yeah.
And then they leave and go to the next one. After here, after St. Louis, after Ferguson, they went up to Baltimore. And then they burned down Baltimore, you know. And so that's what these people are. And somebody's funding it. I've seen rumors all over the internet, but nothing that's confirmed. But it's big dollars that are funding these things.
Oh, yeah.
That are out there. So this isn't organic. This isn't grassroots. This is funded by somebody. And so, you know, which frankly, you've got a right to fund it if you want. I'd love to know who's doing it. We know that a lot of these so-called protesters are being offered money. They're being paid. And so, again, there's rumors all over the internet as to who's doing that. But so far in St. Louis, mostly they've done it the right way. Now, I still maintain that blocking streets and taking over intersections and all of that sort of thing, that's not peaceful protest. It's not violent. It's somewhere in between violent protest and peaceful protest. It's non-violent protest. And when somebody says, well, it's supposed to disrupt, sort of. But here's the thing, is that even Martin Luther King Jr. in the civil rights movement said, if you engage in civil disobedience, part of that is accepting the legal consequences for breaking the law and doing disruption in other people's lives. So there's that aspect I think we need to talk about as well.
Getting new flooring can be exciting, or it can be a hassle. To make sure you have a great experience, use Michael's Flooring, like I did. Hi, it's Susie Moore, and Michael's Flooring has become my go-to for quality, variety, and an all-around great experience. They've been locally owned and operated for more than 30 years. Carpet, hardwood, laminate, ceramic tile, natural stone, luxury vinyl, it doesn't matter. Michael's Flooring is ready to help. 3 locations to pick from: St. Peter's, Darting Prairie, and Creve Coeur, or online at igotfloor.com. That's igotfloor.com.
Hey there, Chris Cooper here, Serenity Wealth Management. We are going to turn up the volume this weekend, talking about surround sound, visual audio, and a little bit of finance as well on Serenity Wealth Now Radio. Joining us in studio, David Young of the Sound Room from Chesterfield is out to talk about the quality of service he has delivered to the St. Louis community for 42 years and counting.
Serenity Wealth Now with Chris Cooper, Sunday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
Spring is in the air, and so are the savings at Johnson Heating and Cooling. Let our family take care of your family's heating and cooling needs. Right now through May 15th, get a complete air conditioning checkup for just $99. Fully licensed and insured with free estimates, and we service all brands. Comfort meets affordability. That's the Johnson Heating and Cooling promise. Call 636-332-4141 or visit johnson-heatingandcooling.com.
Tony Colombo here for my dentist, Dr. Matt Boscia at New Creation Dental Care, the one-stop shop for all your family's dental needs. And Dr. Boscia is always expanding his services, now including the incredible all-on-4 full arch implant procedure, full mouth restoration that can give you back your smile in as little as 1 day. No more suffering with damaged or missing teeth or poor-fitting dentures. You can see some amazing smile makeovers, learn more about the all-on-4 procedure, and see everything Dr. Boscia can do right now at newcreationdentalcare.com.
KL2I HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefontaine, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. An aviation disaster in India.
An Air India passenger plane with over 240 people on board has crashed Thursday in India's northwestern city of Ahmedabad, according to the airline and local media. Local Moham Nakum filmed the smoke billowing from the crash site near the airport in Ahmedabad, as onlookers watched on in shock.
Correspondent Karen Chama says Boeing 787 Dreamliner crashed just minutes after takeoff. Air India flight AI-171 was bound for London's Gatwick Airport. The UN's Atomic Monitor officially has declared Iran out of compliance with its nuclear obligations. In response, Iran says it will commission another uranium enrichment facility. That's fueling speculation that Israel is readying to attack Iran's nuclear sites, the U.S. evacuating non-essential personnel from parts of the Mideast. Federal court hearing set today on whether the Trump administration can use the National Guard and the Marines to assist with immigration enforcement in Los Angeles.
California Governor Gavin Newsom has filed an emergency motion. He's requesting the court's intervention after President Trump ordered the deployment of National Guard members and Marines to Los Angeles. The administration took this step in response to protests over increased immigration enforcement. The hearing is scheduled for this Thursday afternoon in a federal court in San Francisco.
Correspondent Andrew Stewart. The rowdy demonstrations that began in Los Angeles have spread to other cities around the country. Taking no chances that things might spin out of control in his state, Texas Governor Greg Abbott has already deployed National Guard troops across the state. On Wall Street this morning, the Dow futures down 275 points. NASDAQ futures are off 78. More on these stories at townhall.com.
If you're living with pain, see how Relief Factor can help.
My back got injured very bad. I was off work for about a year. I heard about Relief Factor from my wife. I took it every day, 3 times a day for 3 weeks. Look at her and I said, the pain is gone. And she said, I'm glad it helped. I said, no, you don't understand. It's gone.
Fight pain naturally with Relief Factor. Go to relieffactor.com and get your 3-week quick start today. Only $19.95.
Healthcare is complicated. It doesn't have to be. If you don't love how your health insurance works, maybe it's time to leave traditional health insurance behind. Take charge of your healthcare with Christian Healthcare Ministries. CHM offers you flexibility, Enroll anytime, choose your own provider, and select the program that fits your needs and budget. CHM is the original faith-based way of taking care of your medical bill costs. Learn more at chministries.org/wellness.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Dry night tonight, low of 70 degrees, but more clouds for Thursday. Even a few showers are possible in the late morning to afternoon. Better chance southwest of St. Louis, but we may see a light shower sneak into the metro. Otherwise, a high of 87 and more clouds for Thursday. Friday, a good chance for showers and thunderstorms, some isolated downpours, noticeably more humid, too, with a high of 82. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Onder Law. Call for a free consultation because winning is what we do at Onder Law. Call 314 or 618-9000.
Did you know that we have a locally owned, independently owned family jewelry store right here in the St. Louis metro region that can create unique pieces for your family members and your loved ones? Newstetter's Fine Jewelers. That's the one we have. Tim Jones here to tell you all about Newstetter's. You can find them 24/7 at wowdiamonds.com. I have been there a multitude of times along with so many of my family and friends because Newstetter's is local, family-owned, and provides honest jewelry solutions. They've been doing it for well over 50 years. You can find out everything they've got at wowdiamonds.com. That's Newstetter's Fine Jewelers, wowdiamonds.com.
Yo, this is Vic. All during the month of June, Vic for Vets is proudly honoring our veterans. Every weekday at 11:05, you'll hear about that day's honoree and their incredible service to our country.
Hi, it's Ken. You want to nominate a veteran? Send their name, service information, and story to me, Ken, at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Brought to you by Best Buy Flooring, Patriot Heating and Cooling, and DG Firearms.
Together, let's celebrate the heroes in our community, Vic for Vets, where honor meets gratitude.
All the information I need on the drive to work.
Mike Ferguson in the morning. I keep it on throughout the day, whether it's local, national, or something big that's happening overseas.
News, analysis, and opinion.
St. Louis is number one for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
Mike Ferguson.
We the people.
Gabe Pfeiffer.
It's not rocket science. Rocket science.
Get up! Get up! Can't you hear the alarm? Get up! Get up!
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
All right, the pro-illegal alien protest started with a bang in other cities, but they've started with more of a whimper here, and that's not a bad thing. We'll see what happens this weekend. Also, okay, guys, if the Royals should be renamed the Gold Diggers,
yes,
maybe
and they should be.
Maybe the Chiefs should be renamed the Welfare Queens.
Oh, nice. Okay,
I said it.
Okay.
All right. And Republicans get another win over Democrats. I'm not talking about elections for this one. It is 6:05. Let's do a news dump.
The morning news dump brought to you by Common Sense Rentals.
Wake up, America. It all worked out.
They got all the news.
The morning news dump.
All right. The left-wing protests around here are off to a pretty mild start. A small number of leftist wave signs on the Tam overpass on Wednesday. This is the one we were telling you about. But that was really all that happened. In downtown St. Louis, a socialist organized protest blocked off some streets for a little while. More demonstrations are planned around the area for Saturday. So, guys, we've got a lot more information to cover here in just a bit. In Los Angeles, of course, they're continuing to have night after night after night of these pro-illegal alien, anti-ICE protests. I mean, let's call it what these actually are. These are anti-Trump protests.
Yes.
That's what this is.
Clearly.
And now the Marines are posted outside of the city after receiving training to non-lethally subdue demonstrators. Not sure that was the right the approach, but we'll see. City leaders have imposed a curfew again. Acting ICE director, his name is Todd Lyons, is in Los Angeles, and he was on Hannity last night talking about the backlash against his guys and gals. And it probably helps if I plug my thing in. All right. That is
now one thing.
Yeah, I'm having one of those days, guys.
One thing I appreciate of the footage I've been seeing so far is the liberal use of the baton by mounted officers.
They have been doing that more. Yep. All right. So here is Todd Lyons, acting ICE director.
I spoke with a source close to the governor who says the governor expects Republicans to really come at it.
And once again, that's the wrong one here too. So my bad. All right. That's not the one that was highlighted. Here we go.
It's bad out here. And to think that all we're trying to do is our law enforcement mission and we have to deal with this,
It's so un-American on so many different scales.
Yeah, I mean, he's absolutely right. It is really, really un-American. But keep in mind, these people generally hate America.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
they do. They don't believe in the same sorts of. They don't believe in the America that we want.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
I think at some point, conservatives and liberals had at least a similar vision of what America would look like after, if they had their druthers. They just had a disagreement on how to get there.
Yeah.
We have a diametrically opposed vision of what America should be. And it's you can't unite with these people.
No.
So I guess the rubber bullets will have to do
for now. All right. Senator Josh Hawley says he's launching an investigation into what's being described as an immigrant rights group that he says might be bankrolling the riots in Los Angeles. Here's the story.
Senator Hawley chairs the Judiciary Subcommittee on Crime and Terrorism and says he wants to know whether funding for the riots came from a local nonprofit, the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights, or CHIRLA. The organization has received funding from sources including the Department of Homeland Security. Hawley says now credible reporting suggests CHIRLA may be providing logistical support and financial resources to some of those involved in the riots. Bob Agnew reporting.
Okay, and you may say, okay, so is he just trying to do a partisan gotcha? Because, I mean, let's be honest, these are essentially anti-Trump, anti-GOP protests, no matter what they want to call them. They can say it's about illegal immigration, but it's really just about overall politics. But here's the thing: is somebody's funding this. There's no way this is grassroots. It's too coordinated.
Yes,
too well equipped. So essentially, what you have them is organized crime.
Yes, you can get them on RICO, right?
And especially if any part of it has crossed a state line.
I'm honestly not surprised that they get their funding, or they've gotten part of their funding from Homeland Security.
If that turns out to be true, yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised based on the types of things that were being exposed by Doge, where basically the government was being being used as a bankroll for all these various left-wing groups and activities.
Yeah. And I've seen, like, for instance, on social media, a bunch of accusations of like some other groups and billionaires and things like that. And I can't confirm them. So
sure.
I'm not going to repeat every accusation out there, but somebody's bankrolling.
Yes. And we should be investigating it. And we've been giving Josh Hawley a hard time for turning a little quite a bit left on us, but I'll give him this one for actually trying to look into where this funding is coming from.
It's like anybody else. I mean, when he's right, he's right. When he's wrong, he's wrong.
Absolutely.
All right. It is a done deal. Missouri state government will put up about $1.5 billion to help build the Kansas City Royals a new stadium and cover a significant part of the cost of upgrading Arrowhead Stadium for the Chiefs. That's assuming both teams decide to stay in Missouri. The plan is for the teams to use the taxes generated by the stadiums to pay that money off, or at least the bonds off. So the money is still coming from taxpayers on both ends. The teams are not actually going to have to spend any money to get this stuff. Taxpayers are paying for all of it. The legislature also approved $125 million in disaster relief funds. Most of that is going to go to those hit by the St. Louis tornado last month.
Yeah. Thank you, GOP controlled legislature.
Yeah. And, it was interesting. I'm reading the different articles. Missouri Net is pretty neutral in how they write. Missouri Independent is a left-leaning.
That's a left-leaning,
left-leaning organization. Their accounts were fairly similar, and about 30 Democrats and 50, almost 60 Republicans voted for it. And it really wasn't as close of a vote as they thought it was going to be. And it looks like a lot of those votes were won over with the leverage of the disaster relief.
See, and I thought those things were separate.
They should morally be separate. I understand politics is a contact sport and you do what you have to do to get it. I don't think there was ever any question the disaster relief was going to happen. But it looks like that was at least in the conversation as leverage to get the corporate welfare for the sports teams.
And you think it would have been a better situation, considering that the supposed fiscal hawks are in control of the legislature, the Republicans, right?
Yeah,
right?
You would think.
Yeah.
But that's not how that worked out.
Cue laugh track.
Yeah. All right. So following meetings in Washington, D.C., amid disagreements over the spending cuts in the so-called Big Beautiful Bill and spending increases, I would say, the Senate is continuing its work. Florida Senator Rick Scott, Republican, is on the Senate Budget Committee. He was on Fox Business's Kudlow And he says GOP needs to take a thorough approach to creating a much leaner budget.
We've got to go line by line and do these rescission packages and get this budget balance.
And of course, the first rescission package that we talked to Congressman Bob Onder about this week is about $9 billion of things that were suggested by Doge.
Oh, okay. $9 billion.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's the first one.
Yeah. I mean, okay. The goal was 100 trillion or a trillion.
Yeah.
Right. I think they managed to identify, if I remember the last number correctly, 170 billion.
Yeah.
Which is a little over 10% of their goal number.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, their work isn't done yet till July 2026, but still the pace isn't right for their goal. This is, I'm afraid we're just going to be, we're going to be given a very, very small consolation prize for the hard fought political victories.
And we're going to be told to be excited about that.
Yes.
Republicans are going to tell us to be excited about a fraction of what was promised.
Yeah. I mean,
look at what we did.
Yeah. I mean,
boy,
the thing is,
good thing they're not in charge.
In isolation, a $9 billion taxpayer savings sounds great in isolation, but we know. We know otherwise. We know that this should be a much bigger number, especially given the deficit and our current ballooning debt.
Exactly. All right. Republicans beat the Democrats in Washington, and I am not talking about a vote on a bill or an election this time. Final score in the 2025 congressional baseball game, GOP 13, Democrats 2. That is 5 wins in a row for the Republicans. And here's the first hit of the game that was hit by the Republicans.
Not going to throw 80, 90. Just be patient. He reaches out for that one, and he's going to touch down for a base hit. First hit of the night for the GOP. Eric Schmidt getting things.
There it is. Put one in. Now, I will say this. I got to eat my words a little bit because outside pitch, and he went and pulled it.
Oh, he did.
So into left center.
Right.
But then again, he's 6'5" or 6'6" or whatever he is. So
that wingspan's a little
helpful. He can reach pitches that I can't reach. So he now has a 3-game hit streak.
Nice.
In the congressional game in this ongoing event. But remember, he was talking about he got hit by a pitch last year.
Yeah.
He got plunked last night again. He got plunked at the end.
They're aiming at him.
So he's got a big target.
That's
true.
It's
hard to miss him.
That's true.
All right.
Yeah, but I was talking about this with my wife last night. I was like, man, it's like the GOP just kind of killing it. Democrats don't seem to be able to play sports. And my wife, she says,
I can't wait for this.
She goes, well, they're all, it's an all-woman team.
It was funny. There's one play. You got to look this up. And I think it was Representative Aguilar at third base for the Republicans made a legit diving stop. And I mean, like full on, like big league quality layout dive and caught one. It was really impressive.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll take it.
Cardinals got swept by the Blue Jays. They did lose the final game of that series last night, 5-2. They're on the road now playing Milwaukee tonight. That's going to be a big series for the Cardinals.
Inspiration, you have a soul sewn up, it is no more. And all at once depart, no destination, making cold my heart to fight your war. Stop right now!
Happy Father's Day!
For Father's Day, families everywhere giving dads 40% of the effort they put into Mother's Day.
Dad, I love you. I appreciate everything you've done for me and all the sacrifices.
I love you, Dad.
Happy Father's Day! Happy Father's Day for everybody.
Happy Father's Day!
My father's a hero.
Thank you for everything, Pops.
Happy Father's Day from some of Dad's favorites: Iron Bear Customs, Patriot Powder Coating, Tropical World Beds, and News Talk STL.
The Herzog Tomorrow Foundation provides private school tuition scholarships through Missouri's new Most Scholars program to cover the cost of accessible, high-quality schooling.
Hi, this is Myella Esser with the Herzog Tomorrow Foundation. Our private school tuition scholarships wouldn't be possible without the support of generous Missouri taxpayers. If you're a Missouri taxpayer interested in redirecting your tax dollars and sending them to Missouri students in need of a better education, please contact me at herzogmostscholars.org.
Better education for students creates a better tomorrow for all. Learn how you can help provide a better education for Missouri students at HerzogMoScholars.org. That's HerzogMoScholars.org. Also, sign up for The Lion, an initiative of the Herzog Foundation that carries articles covering a wide range of issues facing American families and culture. HerzogFoundation.com. That's HerzogFoundation.com.
Hi, Kirk Hilsinger here, and I'm the new chairman of the St. Louis Republican Central Committee. I invite you to our meetings that take place the first Thursday of every month at 3710 Hampton Avenue. You can stay connected with us to learn more about how you can get involved, make your voice heard, and contribute to our shared goals. Together, we can make a difference in the city of St. Louis and the state of Missouri. For more info, visit our new website at stl-gop.com. That's stl-gop.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Good morning, St. Louis. Hey, it's Vince from The Vince Show right here on News Talk STL every weeknight at 8. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
All right, we're going to get to the protest here in just a little bit, a little more. 6:35. It's kind of funny. I'm looking at the Rumble chat box, guys, and 101 straight up's pointing out, the St. Louis Post disgrace headline today: rallies hit St. Louis.
Rallies.
It's all how you frame it, man.
Oh, they're rallies.
Rallies are fun.
That sounds fun.
Rallies are fun.
Remember pep rallies?
Yeah.
Speaking of fun, if you're getting stressed out by what's going on lately, don't worry. Tomorrow is Flashback Friday.
That's right.
So we need your 80s music requests. Send them to Jerome at NewsTalkSTL.com. We already have some fantastic requests. So,
and I actually got a couple, which I just forwarded over to you. Yeah.
And I want to make a reminder too, because I know that people can come and go. You know, we have busy lives. So if you know you're going to be listening during a certain hour, just say, hey, I listened during 7:30. I would love to hear this. And I will try to my best, if it's not already been claimed, to get it in for you.
Nice. All right. So here's a question. She went woke, picked an online fight, got outclassed, and now apologized.
Okay.
So should that be the end of it? Simone Biles says she still disagrees, but she's sorry for attacking Riley Gaines. And here's the question now. Is I'm sorry good enough? I mean, is that what everybody wanted, for Simone Biles to admit that she was wrong, or at least that she went too far? So she puts out a statement, which I've been around this business long enough to know that was crafted most likely by a crisis PR firm.
Yes, you could tell.
And the reason I know that is because I have done crisis PR.
You know what it looks like. There are fingerprints.
Yeah. So here's the thing: is even though I'm sure she consulted with somebody, she still put out a public statement apologizing to Riley Gaines.
Right.
Okay. She says, I wanted to follow up from my last tweets. I've always believed competitive equity and inclusivity are both essential in sport. That's how you know it was a professional writer.
Yes.
Sport.
Yes.
Because nobody who's an athlete refers to being a part of sport.
Right.
Which is grammatically correct, but that's
not how people talk.
Yeah. She goes along to say the current system doesn't adequately balance these important principles, which often leads to frustration and heated exchanges. And it didn't help for me to get personal with Riley, which I apologize for. She goes on to say, these are sensitive, complicated issues that I truly don't have the answers or solutions to, but I believe it starts with empathy and respect. I was not advocating for policies that compromise fairness in women's sports. She goes on to say, my objection is to be singling out children for public scrutiny in ways that feel personal and harmful. Individual athletes, especially kids, should never be the focus of criticism of a flawed system they have no control over. I believe sports organizations have a responsibility to come up with rules supporting inclusion while maintaining fair competition. We all want a future for sport that is fair, inclusive, and respectful. Okay, so bottom line is I disagree with a lot of what she said about sport. I frankly, you know what? She says we should never single out the children. Like this all goes back to that boy who was the pitcher for that girls softball team that he alone basically won the state championship.
Yes.
Or the boys who are doing the track and field thing, single them out.
Yes, absolutely.
You know what? Single them out. I don't care if they want to, they and their parents, their narcissistic parents and their woke agenda driven, schools want to do that. I disagree with Simone Biles. Single them out, call them out by name. Don't use them with kit gloves. You've decided to enlist in the culture war. You're a soldier. Guess what? You now take the heat for doing that.
And here's the thing. It's basically the same as how we would regard a cheater.
Yeah.
Right. So even if, hey, you're a kid, but if you're a cheater, we're gonna heap scorn upon you because you've sullied sports.
Right.
Right.
And I don't think every kid who does something wrong in a sports game should be with today's social media. I think there's a lot of kids that get tarred and feathered. You see some.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, it's got to be proportional.
I mean, like somebody's running a phone, their camera phone at their kids, junior high basketball game, and a kid loses his temper, and then it ends up going viral. Come here, look at this idiot. Don't do that to the kids. You know what? Yeah, they're learning.
They're still learning how to control their emotions.
I saw one at a wrestling tournament, and the kids they looked like they were like third grade. And then one kid was throwing a hissy fit because he lost. And they're like, what terrible sportsmanship. What kind of parents? I'm like, he's like 8.
Yeah.
He's learning.
He's still got to figure out the sportsmanship thing.
Yeah. So
now if he's, 17.
Oh, that's a different story.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So I disagree with Simone Biles on the policy.
Right.
Okay. But the fact is that she was slammed for going after Riley Gaines personally.
Yes.
You look like a guy, and Simone Biles just lost. She just lost that round.
Oh yeah.
So here's the question though. She admitted she was wrong. She went too far, and she said, I apologize. Is that good enough?
Well, I was going to say, and this might be a little bit biased because I'm also, former athlete, is she's a gold medalist. She won us some gold. So at the end of the day, the comments themselves were ironic given the fact that you're trying to essentially use an insult that's used against trans people while you're also trying to be an advocate, ally, whatever, which I think that's, I personally just found that funny, but you are entitled to have your opinions. If you're mad, I mean, it's not a good look for somebody that's supposed to be a champion. We're supposed to hold ourselves to a higher standard, but if you make us look good because you're dominating in sports, then I think you should be forgiven.
Yeah. Now, is that dependent on her being successful as an athlete? I mean,
if you're if you're not even a bronze medalist and you want to have opinions on people better than you, then no, you need to stay in your lane. And if I'm striking out and I'm trying to comment on your catching skills, then I need to sit back on the bench.
Right. Back to the bench.
Well, thanks for letting me practice catching by not hitting the ball. That's like, there are some games. It's like, man, Mike, sorry, you're worn out back there. Like when my pitcher's having a bad day, I'm like, I don't have to do anything. The ball's not even getting to me.
It's way out there.
but here's the thing. And this goes back to questioning ourselves here.
Right.
Okay. So, we demand apologies. We demand that you, and in this case, when Simone Biles says, yeah, I was wrong.
Right.
At that point, she's owned it. Is she still woke and has the wrong view on the issues?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Does she lay out stuff in there that I think is wrong and I disagree with? Absolutely. But at that point, do we say, all right, you have admitted you're wrong. You have apologized. That's what we wanted. Let's debate the substance of what's at hand here.
Absolutely. I think the way to go about this, and the thing is, when these things get personal between individuals, I don't even think, it's not as though the apology is owed to us as these sort of sideline observers or the people who've picked a side in the debate. I mean, it's up to Riley Gaines whether she wants to accept that apology to me.
Yeah, and she says that she did. She put a statement out saying, I accept it. And then she gave her side of what she thinks on the policy, which is fine. She did a TV interview where she kind of did a little bit of a spike the football a little bit, which was borderline, but she won that round.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. And so I think, the social media, particularly Twitter, X, particularly that just hammered Simone Biles. And what happened here is Simone Biles went from sort of being America's sweetheart, because remember, she's the one who quit on her team in the last Olympics and then decided to come back because she was having, a mental whatever.
The twisties.
And then, there was that. and she also was having a whatever mental health episode that she was having. And then people kind of rushed and said, they made it about mental health, for when we got to be empathetic and all that sort of thing. And people kind of circled the wagons, and, said, "Oh, that's tough to," that sort of thing. But then when you decide to go attack somebody else, you're like, "Wait a minute, didn't you quit on your team on that?" And so now when somebody admits that they're wrong, like for instance, politicians, they have this rule:
they never
admit that you were wrong because it's going to be used against you. Well, Simone Biles admitted she was wrong. Should we say that's the right thing to do and say, okay, that's the end of it?
Now, Monty makes that fantastic point, is that Biles only apologized because she had to, and the apology was written by somebody else, probably not her.
Definitely written by somebody else.
It's kind of like if your kid does something wrong to another kid, they pull the hair or whatever, and it's like, say sorry. I'm sorry.
That's right. Yeah.
So if the intention is not actually a heartfelt, this is me owning up to this in my words, saying I sincerely feel remorse for this, but rather I'm trying to save my public image. I think that does change a little bit about how I feel about this. Not that she owes me an apology or anything like that, or that she's entitled to being forgiven. Because again, if Riley's fine with it, that she was the one insulted.
Right.
But I do think that that's a good point. It wasn't really her apologizing, and therefore, I mean.
By the way,
does it count?
That being forced, like, I'm sorry, and I don't wait till you get married. That actually doesn't go away. That actually continues all the way through.
That's a real thing.
That's a real thing.
That's why I apologize. That's all. I'm not sorry. I apologize.
Yeah. Well, but that's the thing. Okay, so but that's the thing. It's pretty obvious to me, being what I would consider myself to be somewhat of a subject matter expert in this area
as a communications guy. Yeah,
somebody else. That was a formulaic writing, but she very specifically, I attacked her personally. I went too far. For that, I apologize.
Right.
Okay. And then she made her case on the policy stuff, which is, she's wrong, but she made her safe on, like for instance, also Elon Musk apologized. And there's been a lot of people, sending up saying, he's like, I apologize for what I said.
He said, I regret what I posted about Donald Trump, and what was it? My tweets went too far. That was his tweeted apology.
Right.
And conceivably he had had a discussion with Donald Trump prior to that, like a private discussion.
Yeah. So he didn't like fully fall on the sword, but admitted that he went, too far.
Right.
And he, because remember, we were like, whoa.
Yeah, he went to Epstein, and
he went right he went right from you're not cutting out spending to Epstein.
Right. And it's like going to Nazi, basically. You know what I mean? It's
And Elson says, forgive, but don't forget.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you don't, I mean, I'm not saying to like wipe the slate clean, but if you're still going to have that in the back of your mind, is it really forgiveness at that point? Or is it just saying, okay, we'll stop talking about it and we'll move on for now?
How about this? I think it's a matter of don't keep score, but beware. That's how I'm going to read what Alan was saying. And I think there's some validity to that. It's like, okay, I apologize for doing this terrible thing to you. I can accept that.
Yeah.
But then know that I'm not maintaining my anger with you. I'm not maintaining my bitterness, but I'm going to be aware of trusting you again.
Right. And I'm fully on board with that sort of interpretation of what forgiveness is that you don't hold, it's like that. This isn't going to be as, and I can't remember, some psychiatrists described the idea of collecting acorns.
Right.
Basically, every time you slight me, I'm going to put that away. And when we get into an argument, I'm going to pull it out and start throwing it at you. So I'm not going to be throwing that particular acorn at you because you asked for forgiveness. So the next time she comes up on social media talking stuff and we want to come back at her, we're not going to say, oh yeah, this is the same lady who, that's what forgiveness gets you, is like, we're not going to bring it back up, we're not going to hold it against you. But it has to, all of these things have to change the way you approach that individual.
Right.
Because I've learned something about you. I've learned, so it would be stupid, it would be illogical for me to treat you exactly the same as, after this issue as before this issue. I gave you the benefit of the doubt before. We were excited that you came to Washington to speak. Next time, I'm not so sure. You have changed my perception of you, and I'm going to respond accordingly.
Yeah, precisely. All right, 314-912-1019. All right, let's talk some of the protests and what is being done to prepare the region in case things get ugly here. So we'll talk about that right around 6:35.
We're upside down.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
A cross between Socrates and Dirty Harry.
On NewsTalk-STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Dry night tonight, low of 70 degrees, but more clouds for Thursday. Even a few showers are possible in the late morning to afternoon. Better chance southwest of St. Louis, but we may see a light shower sneak into the metro. Otherwise, a high of 87 and more clouds for Thursday. Friday, a good chance for showers and thunderstorms, some isolated downpours, noticeably more humid, too, with a high of 82. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
It's brand new year. Tim Jones will tell you about the brand new things happening at The Hideout, famous for the Sunset Patio, 50 big screen TVs, live music and events, a fantastic game room, and of course, the food. The Hideout has a brand new menu featuring their world-famous wings, the best handcrafted burgers, new items like the signature Sunset Dip and Dave's Chili, and a second location at Sugar Creek Golf Course in beautiful High Ridge. Experience the Hideout while enjoying a round of golf. Come in for lunch or dinner. The new 2025 Hideout, hideoutsportsbar.com, hideoutsportsbar.com. We'll definitely see you there.
We've been here 30 years, 30 Christmases in this house, and we have the traditions that most families have.
That's Terry talking about her experience with Rhino Shield ceramic coating.
We did Rhino Shield 14 years ago, and the house still looks the same as the first day. Rhino Shield really worked with me to help me get just the right, nice, soft yellow, and it's 14 years later, and it's the same color.
The main reason Terry called Rhino Shield is because it's backed by its 25-year transferable warranty.
It just sounded wonderful that we could have the house coated with Rhino Shield and not have to worry about it again for 25 years.
Take it from Terry. Give Rhino Shield a call now for a free evaluation. 877-25-RHINO. 877-25-RHINO. Or visit 877-25rhino.com.
There have been neighbors that have come by and said, "Did you just have your house painted?" Because they wanted to know who the contractor was. And I said, "No, it's actually Rhino Shield."
877-25rhino.com.
News Talk STL.
Hey, it's Aaron Dorr, host of Shall Not Be Infringed, Sunday nights at 9. But now it's more of Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
All right. At least St. Louis's left-wingers aren't burning stuff down and fighting the cops, at least not yet. So far, demonstrations have been just that, people having their say.
And don't forget, the NewsTalk STL app is in your pocket. You can have a radio. If you have a phone, you have a radio. And one of my favorite features on this is there is a share button. And it's down. There's the Wheel of Fun. It's right in the middle on the lower section, but right to its right is a little share button. So you can share the fact that you are listening, and it will direct people directly to the App Store where they can get their own NewsTalk STL app. So
Nice.
it's a fun way to share the love.
All right. So here's the thing. Before I get into what's happening in St. Louis and what's not happening, which is just as important here, can being pro-illegal alien actually become a platform to launch a presidential campaign?
Really?
Yeah, it looks like Governor J.B. Pritzker is doing that. So here's a report that I found out of Fox 32 in Chicago. So Chicago's Fox station. And this is reporter Paris Schultz talking about J.B. Pritzker's trip to Washington, which is going to happen today, to give some testimony.
I spoke with a source close to the governor who says the governor expects Republicans to really come at it, to really make this a spectacle, really make this a show. He says he wants to contrast that with a more humble and serious look at the issue of immigration and sanctuary cities in Illinois. Of course, the Illinois Trust Act is the law that's at the center of this hearing. That is the law signed by Governor Rauner, a Republican, back in 2017, that makes it so that local police cannot cooperate with federal ICE agents on immigration raids.
Okay, because when you think of humble, you think of J.B. Pritzker.
Absolutely,
Right,
he
exactly.
is the poster boy.
You think
for
of
humble.
Donald Trump and J.B. Pritzker.
Exactly,
That's
they're
what
in the same category of humble billionaires.
Yeah.
So it's hilarious that the Democrats are, I guess, they're beyond double and triple and quadrupling down on this issue at this point. They're way beyond that. But it's interesting that the next attempt at the White House is going to be on an issue that has an increasingly bad prospect for the Democrat position in the public's eye. Like they're not coming back, I don't think, from the changes that we saw in the electorate regarding this issue over the last few years.
And what's interesting is it just seemed, because I keep trying to take that 10,000-foot view of what's happening around the country, and we'll get into a lot more in depth of what's happening in St. Louis at 7:05, but we'll touch on it here. And the only logic I can try to find in this, and I'm trying to put myself in their position, which is kind of painful and feels icky.
Yeah, it does.
And I feel like I need a
shower
shower
after.
from the inside out for something like that. But the only thing I can think of is they are hoping to provoke such an overwhelming violent reaction to quell the riots that they hope to win over people by becoming the puppy that gets kicked.
Right.
Even if the puppy was biting you.
Yeah. So
that's the only thing I can think of them trying to do, which is why one of the reasons I think they want violence.
Weaponized victimhood.
Yeah.
That's kind of all they have left now is basically to present themselves as victims. It reminds me of this one video of some, and I don't want to call them Karens anymore because there are so many Karens in my life that I love. Maybe Margaret, like
Margaret Brennan,
the JD Vance kind of. I don't really care, Margaret. So that some Margaret was coming up to some guy, I guess, in his car, mad at him for something, and suddenly she kind of sort of throws herself at the car and then throws herself down on the ground. It's like, oh, I've been hit by and he's like, what are you talking about? I have you on video. I'm not even moving. That's kind of how it feels with the left. Yeah. They're throwing themselves it's like, I didn't throw a punch. You threw your face at my fist. Literally. That's what you did. I'm just standing here.
Yeah. And so that is what the organizers, they want the violence.
They do.
They can bemoan and cry about, for instance, the officer in Los Angeles who wailed on the guy with the baton when the guy punched his horse.
Right.
And I saw that and I went, good.
Yes.
And he was hitting him about the head and neck and just smacking the crap out of him. And the left says, look at this vicious attack. That didn't warrant that response. Well, yeah, it did.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, it did. There's another one in Chicago that the guy throws a punch at the officers and then runs away, and they went after him.
Sure did.
Gang tackled him, and then people were trying to peel him off, and the officers surrounded him, and they did the right thing. And what happens is these cowards realize, even though we outnumber them, they're actually tough and masculine, and they have, testosterone and what and so they back off, but they try to make it about that latter part of it. And overall, we want these miscreants treated probably harder. I mean, it's probably a good thing I'm not one of these officers. I'd end up getting fired because I would be saying, hey, I got a baton. I'm not going to, why would I not use it?
Right.
Because I can't stand these people for what they're trying to do. But the only thing I can think of is they want that reaction, hoping that's going to win things over to their side, or at least embolden the politicians to keep voting for the illegal aliens. It's not working so far, but I think that's what they might be looking for.
Yeah. Leave the horses alone.
Yes.
Attacking animals is not going to get me to side with you suddenly. And that's, many safety concerns. So first of all, they should feel fortunate it was an officer hitting them and not the horse going wild and biting them and hoofing the crap out of them. Because the horse, you get
horse will kill you.
Yeah,
they'll kill you. Yeah,
they're
strong
kick
animals.
to the head and you're done, And then also if you spook the horse enough, the officer could fall off, and then now he could be crippled.
Well, which is
killed.
one of the things they're probably looking
and they're
for
trying
as well.
to, the fact that you think that's a good idea. People, some people are commenting saying that is one, it's assault on an officer because horses are officers, and two, that could be potentially viewed as in court as a attempted murder. If you are trying to
assault,
it could be, it's a stretch legally because you can't prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. But yeah, what they're trying to do is cause their enemy to get hurt,
severe damage,
without a doubt.
On individuals,
but you're right. They've actually written the laws, I think, in all 50 states that look like a canine dog and a horse, for the horse mounted patrol as officers.
They're treated. They're supposed to be treated like officers in that regard.
Right. In that regard. So that is there. Okay. So St. Louis, and we'll get into more depth here in just a little bit, including I grabbed a clip from one of the local TV reports on this. There were two different vibes.
Okay.
We told you about the TAM overpass one that was planned, and it went off as scheduled, as planned. And it was a bunch of old hippie type, leftist.
Okay.
These were the it looks like probably a lot of the same people that were at that Brentwood Brentwood demonstration, hands-off demonstration I drove through a few weeks ago. I'm pretty sure it was a lot of the same people, a bunch of old bushy gray beards, and then the men also. But just saying, it was struck me as like that hippie type. But it looks like there were a few dozen of them, so it was small but not tiny. Right. And they had their signs and they were waving American flags and of course gay pride flags.
The pride flags. Clearly,
that's a given.
That's the other nation that their allegiances to.
Yeah, and then they were having their say. Nothing was thrown, no traffic was blocked. They made their point, they made their say. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, really, Mike, their arthritis wouldn't let them through.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
Brick anyway.
Yeah.
So.
And so, were they right about anything that they were saying? Nope. Are they wrong? Is the message that they've got bad for our country and culture and society? Absolutely. Were they conflating some good things about immigration and trying to roll them into the victimhood? Absolutely. I mean, there was nothing intellectually honest about them, but you know what? They were peaceful. They got to say what they want to say. No problem.
Yeah.
So downtown. And we'll go into more detail on it here.
This is the other vibe.
This is the other vibe. They decided to take over, some of the streets and march through the streets. This wasn't like a permitted thing or anything. The police essentially protected them from traffic, going through. So the police allowed them to commandeer the streets downtown. And this was more in the late afternoon, early evening. So it looks like it didn't cause a huge amount of problems, but they still allowed them. That's not violent, but it's not peaceful. Because police were tweeting out, and I was following their spokesman on this last night, and he says, traffic is being impacted, which basically is saying we're allowing them to tell you where you can drive and not drive. So this is one that was overtly organized by socialists, and I'll give you the names and all that at 7:05. But this was the association. So these are the ones that are probably waiting on the comrades to show up on the vans over the next couple of days. So you've got two different groups who basically said, oh, let's get going on this. It didn't appear to me that they were coordinated at all. I mean, different looks, different age groups, different demos, different everything, different messaging, different tactics with the overt. Now they're all socialist, but the ones downtown were overtly, people's liberation, socialism kind of nonsense.
Like the full-on commie.
The full-on commie thing, right. In the city that their elected officials have ruined by doing what they want to do. So it's kind of ironic that they didn't block a lot of traffic because there's nobody who wants to be downtown St. Louis. But there's probably going to be a pretty big protest. We'll see if it gets violent. I've already told my daughter, I'm like, you be careful on Saturday because she works and lives downtown.
Oh boy.
So we'll get into that more depth at 7:05. But so far, I'm not going to say so good, but so far, so not bad, if that makes any sense. All right, bring you up to date on that and a whole lot of other stuff happening around the country right around 6:50.
Mommy, what are those Democrats up to now?
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk. Live and local.
I need to know what's going on in my city.
News Talk STL.
June is packed with incredible experiences in beautiful Augusta, Missouri. Mark your calendars. June 20th brings the unforgettable Taste of Tradition dinner, a 5-course culinary journey with wine pairings right in the town square. June 21st and 22nd, go behind the scenes at local wineries during the exclusive AVA Expo. And wrap up the month, June 29th, with insider secrets and our winemakers panel. All in Augusta, Missouri. Get your tickets now at augusta-chamber.org. That's augusta-chamber.org.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on the St. Louis radio airwaves for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can now hear Doug and Safe Money Radio 2 times every weekend on News Talk STL. But in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com. You could also reach Doug at 844-6766. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
It's that time of season when families, businesses are moving. For local or long distance, I endorse McGuire Moving. Get a date set soon before the schedules are booked. 314-241-0600. 241-0600. McGuire is constantly giving back to our veterans, such as support dogs for our brave. So with McGuire, you're getting excellent service and helping our vets. McGuireMoving.com.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli, and my favorite sandwich from Capriati's is the Wagyu beef French dip. So good. It's the au jus that makes it. And the Wagyu beef is pretty good, too. I love Capriati's, and you will, too.
On Manchester at McKnight in Rock Hill.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hi, it's Randy Tobler here. Pour a big cup of coffee and catch my show every Saturday morning from 6 to 9. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the Morning here on News Talk STL.
All right, we're going to go into more depth on this at 7:05. The pro-illegal alien protest, they may be wild and crazy in other cities, but not so much here in St. Louis, at least not yet. We can breathe a little sigh of relief that nothing went crazy yesterday, but let's see what happens on Saturday. 6:48 right now. Here's the question I pose. I think, was it Jerome that you came up with? We should rename the Royals the Gold Diggers. Was that you? I think that brought that.
Yes,
yeah.
it was.
Okay, so let's piggyback on that. Maybe the Kansas City Chiefs should be renamed the Welfare Queens.
I like it.
Just saying. And Republicans get another win over Democrats, but this had nothing to do with an election. Let's go ahead and get to the news dump.
Wake up, America. It all worked out. They got all the news. The morning news dump.
All right. Again, 7:05. Let's go into more depth on this. Love to get your thoughts. A lot of people have something to say on the Rumble chat box, I'm sure on the Facebook comments as well. Left-wing protests around here are off to a pretty mild start. Small number of leftist wave signs on the Tam overpass on Wednesday afternoon. But that was really all that happened.
Yeah.
In downtown St. Louis, a socialist organized protest blocked streets for a little while. There were nothing got physical out there. More demonstrations are planned around the area for Saturday. Don't be surprised if you see a few sign waivers today, but Saturday is the day that they really want stuff to happen. And in Los Angeles, of course, they're continuing to have night after night after night of basically anarchy. And now that the reinforcements are in, looks to me like to some degree, the good guys are getting the upper hand. The news copy I've got here is saying, LA is bracing for another night of anti-ICE protests. Let's call this what this is. This is all anti-Trump.
Yes.
That's what this is.
Ultimately, yes.
Ultimately, this is anti-Trump. Okay, so city leaders imposing a curfew again. Acting ICE director, his name is Todd Lyons, is in LA, and he tells Fox's Hannity that the ICE agents should not be the ones facing the backlash.
It's bad out here. And to think that all we're trying to do is our law enforcement mission, and we have to deal with this, it's so un-American on so many different scales.
Over 200 protesters have been arrested in LA. And by the way, Tom Homan and ICE and Christian Ohm, they've doubled down. They say, no, we're keeping our raids going. We're expanding the raids in your area. So essentially what you've got is you think you're going to intimidate us. You're not doing it, and they're doing more. And the left and the media saying, you're exacerbating the situation. Law and order, people.
Right.
It's your fault.
It's so crazy.
as though these are animals who are reacting to stimuli. They are making a calculated argument to say, if we get violent and hurt people, then you're going to back down and stop enforcing the law. And then somehow that's being twisted in the leftist media and in academia and all the others to say, well, then clearly, it's the administration's fault.
Oh yeah, it's people who believe that in order to prevent the children from having tantrums, you just have to give them everything they want.
Yeah,
like come on, it's simple, parents.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Senator Josh Hawley launching an investigation into what's called an immigrants' rights group that he says might be bankrolling the chaos in Los Angeles.
Senator Hawley chairs the Judiciary Subcommittee on Crime and Terrorism and says he wants to know whether funding for the riots came from a local nonprofit, the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights, or CHIRLA. The organization has received funding from sources including the Department of Homeland Security. Hawley says now credible reporting suggests CHIRLA may be providing logistical support and financial resources to some of those involved in the riots. Bob Agnew reporting.
And at some point, I really do hope we determine who's funding all this stuff around the country, because somebody with billions of dollars is funding this. We do know that in some areas, I don't know if it's nationwide, but in some areas, they're offering hundreds of dollars a day to get out and protest, with these explicit encouragement to cause disruption and chaos.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Now, a lot of these organizations, they all have always struck me as just basically money laundering schemes. You know, they're about as legit as that mattress store at the mall. You know, that nobody's ever in there.
Nobody's ever in, but they've been there for 20 years.
Yeah,
and they're
something's up. Something's up, man.
Or the sunglasses shop in Los Angeles that I went to years ago.
Yeah,
that acted surprised when I wanted to buy sunglasses.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, what are you actually selling? You know what? I don't care. That's a good deal on sunglasses.
You can't fund the rent on that bodega with the sale of sunglasses, sir.
No, you can't. And so I don't know what I contributed to, but I had a pretty good pair of sunglasses for like $6 in Los Angeles. So anyway, all right. It is a done deal. Again, more details in a little bit here. Missouri state government is going to put up $1.5 billion-ish to help build the Kansas City Royals a new stadium and cover a significant part of the cost of upgrading Arrowhead Stadium for the Chiefs. The plan is for the teams to use the taxes generated by the stadiums to pay off the bonds that are being fronted by the taxpayers on this. So the money is still coming from the taxpayers on both ends, from the money being put up, that's from the taxpayers, and then paying it off from the taxpayers. The teams and the billionaires who own them, they are not going to be spending a penny for this part of it. Now, they still do have to contribute something to their stadiums, but $1.5 billion is being paid for by the taxpayers. The legislature also approved $125 million in disaster relief funds, most of which is going to go to those hit by the St. Louis tornado that happened last month. All right, let's talk federal spending here. We've got DOGE, we've got rescission, we've got the so-called big, beautiful bill. And there are still meetings going on. The Senate continuing to work on that bill. Senator Rick Scott, Republican out of Florida, is a member of the Senate Budget Committee. He was on Fox Business's Kudlow, and he says there's more work for the Republicans to do to pare this thing down.
We've got to go line by line and do these rescission packages and get this budget balanced.
So the bill, according to the news copy here, contains about $700 billion in reductions in Medicaid spending. Now, keep in mind, a lot of that is through getting people who aren't eligible off the rolls.
Right.
So if you're not supposed to be eligible for it, we're going to stop paying for it. And that's what's being referred to as the cuts.
Right. Yeah. A cut means somebody who is completely capable of working should actually work.
Right.
That's the quote unquote cut.
Yep.
And also the cut is a reduction in growth.
Yeah, that's not even a cut.
That's not even a real cut. That's a Washington
speak cut. And then the first rescission package that the president sent over is being considered as well.
Those should fly through. They honestly, there should be very little debate on those.
Yeah, the big debate's going to be public media. But honestly, the Republicans need to just have a backbone and just cut it.
Just do it.
We don't need it. And if there's a market for it, they'll come up with it under the nonprofit model. All right, Republicans beat the Democrats in Washington. I am not talking about on a vote on a bill for this one. The final score in the 2025 congressional baseball game, GOP 13, Democrats 2. That is 5 wins in a row for the Republicans. They are on a streak. Senator Eric Schmidt now has a 3-game hit streak going in that annual event, and a 2-game getting hit by a pitch streak in the game, because he got plunked again last night.
Kind of wild.
He also scored as well, but he was pretty excited. So there were a couple of actually impressive plays out there, one from the Democrats and 1 or 2 from the Republicans. And then there were the other plays where it's like people who aren't actual baseball players, doing, but that's what you expect.
Yeah.
They raised over $2 million for charities.
Yeah. And that's why this game actually happens. It's the, because it's the dream of a lot of people like our very own Eric Schmidt.
Yeah.
But also because it's a charity event.
Right. Yeah. And a big one. 31,000 people showed up.
That's pretty awesome.
Stadium to watch them. All right. The Cardinals get swept by the Blue Jays at Busch Stadium. They lost the final game of the series, final score 5-2. Redbirds are now on the road. They start a series with the Brewers this evening. Sonny Gray going to be on the mound for this game. First pitch, 6:40. Here's the thing. The Brewers are only half game behind the Cardinals in the Central Division. Cardinals are 5 games back from the Cubs. Fortunately, the Cubs have had some struggles over the last, few games because the Cardinals losing, 4 in a row now. They haven't lost ground to the Cubs because the Cubs have lost a number of games. So, but the Brewers, if the Brewers win the series, they're going to jump ahead of the Cardinals in the standings. If the Cardinals can win the series, they're going to stay ahead of the Brewers as well. But it's really, really tight for that second place spot in the division. So the funny part is it's going to be really competitive, but one of the reasons it's competitive because this is not the strongest division in baseball, but that's the opportunity for the Cardinals. All right, what are you seeing? What are you planning for? What are you bracing for these protests? Peaceful for the most part yesterday. What is Saturday going to look like? Let's preview that at 7:05.
Simply Health with Dr. Brian Deloney.
On this weekend show, make sure you're there because we're going to be, not only we're going to be introducing the show and talking a little bit more about what we do, but we'll be talking about Blue Pea and what that's all about and why are people so excited to get their pea blue. And we're going to be talking about the biggest mistakes people are making, preventing them from losing weight.
Simply Health, Saturdays at noon on News Talk STL. To find out more about Simply Health Integrated Medical, log on to simplyhealthintegrated.com.
Get ready, St. Louis. The Cubs are coming to town June 23rd through the 26th. The Cardinals host baseball's best rivalry at Busch Stadium in a series that always delivers. The Chicago STL rivalry is legendary, and the energy in the ballpark will be electric. It's the perfect way to spend a summer day or night at the ballpark with passionate fans and nonstop action. Don't miss out. Get your tickets today at cardinals.com/tickets.
Hey, this is Sonny Gray, St. Louis Cardinals for the Lou.
Catch a Cardinals game on your next date night or friends night out. Whether it's love in the stands or laughter with your crew, nothing beats ballpark vibes under the lights. Cold drinks, great eats, and Cardinals baseball. Check out Friday Night Live at Busch Stadium and enjoy happy hour price food and drinks all game long. Every Friday home game. Get your tickets today at cardinals.com and make memories that go beyond the scoreboard. Busch Stadium, where great nights begin.
Since 1995, Renewal by Andersen has helped St. Louis homeowners upgrade with windows and doors. Now it's our 30th anniversary sale. You'll get $1,995 off every project. No gimmicks, real savings, and the nation's best warranty. The offer ends June 30th, so you don't want to wait. There are some restrictions. Visit rbastl.com. Renewal by Andersen. Superior products, exceptional service.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. There were 242 people on board the Air India jetliner that crashed earlier today in a residential neighborhood in northwest India. The London-bound flight issued a Mayday call shortly before the crash. The BBC's Arunde Mukherjee in Delhi.
We've seen some videos that have come up on social media which show black smoke emanating from the crash site. There are some houses that are visible in the area, but I would hesitate to sort of pinpoint what kind of location this was. We've also tried to piece together some information from the flight radar website. So the last signal that was received was seconds after takeoff.
The plane, a Boeing 787, went down about 5 minutes after departure from the local airport. A defiant Iran is lashing out at the UN after its atomic monitor accused Iran of shirking its nuclear responsibility.
The UN Nuclear Watchdog's Board of Governors has formally found that Iran isn't complying with its nuclear obligations for the first time in 20 years. The move could lead to further tensions with Iran and set in motion an effort to restore United Nations sanctions on Tehran later this year. Iran reacted immediately, saying it will establish a new enrichment facility after the vote against it. The announcement said the facility will be in a secure location and that other measures are also being planned. According to anonymous sources, 19 countries on the International Atomic Energy Agency's board voted for the resolution. I'm Karen Shamas.
Spokane, Washington, among cities seeing rowdy protests against enforcement of federal immigration law. Police in Spokane had to use flashbang grenades to break up crowds of demonstrators. Watching Wall Street this morning, the Dow futures down 284 points. NASDAQ futures off 119. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Hey, it's Mike Rohn. If I have a choice, I like to do business with companies that actually stand for something. That's why I switched from Verizon to Pure Talk. No offense to Verizon, I'm sure they stand for something. I just don't know what it is. Pure Talk, on the other hand, is a veteran-owned company that supports our military in a big way, and I appreciate that. Yeah, I also appreciate unlimited talk and text and plenty of data for half the cost of the big guys, and I do like being on America's most dependable 5G network for just $20 a month. But what I really appreciate is no contract, no cancellation fees, and Pure Talk's commitment to handle all their customer service in this country. I saw it for myself. I went to Georgia. I got a tour of their headquarters. I met their CEO, and I talked to the same customer service folks that you'll talk to when you dial pound 250 and say keyword Mike Rowe. Switch today and save 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say keyword Mike Rowe. Pure Talk, a wireless company that actually stands.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Dry night tonight, low of 70 degrees, but more clouds for Thursday. Even a few showers are possible in the late morning to afternoon. Better chance southwest of St. Louis, but we may see a light shower sneak into the metro. Otherwise, a high of 87 and more clouds for Thursday. Friday, a good chance for showers and thunderstorms, some isolated downpours, noticeably more humid, too, with a high of 82. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Happy Father's Day.
For Father's Day, families everywhere giving dads 40% of the effort they put into Mother's Day.
Dad, I love you. I appreciate everything you've done for me and all the sacrifices.
I love you, Dad. Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day for everybody.
Happy Father's Day.
My father's a hero.
Thank you for everything, Pops.
Happy Father's Day from some of Dad's favorites: Ray Ray's Kettle Corn, Pretty Little Paws, the Augusta Chamber of Commerce, and News Talk STL.
Life's legal challenges deserve experienced representation. For over 15 years, Cole Combs, attorney at law, has been serving St. Charles and surrounding counties with comprehensive legal expertise. From tax preparation and estate planning to family law and criminal defense, Cole delivers personalized solutions for your unique situation. You have traffic tickets, need a business formation, real estate matters, one call will handle it all. Cole O. Combs, attorney at law. Call 636-949-0010, extension 3 today, or visit colecombs-law.com.
Mike Ferguson,
You play ball like a girl!
Gabe Pfeiffer,
I triple song stereo!
Get up! Get up! Can't you hear the alarm?
Get up, St. Louis.
So it's time to get out of bed. Pour yourself the greatest cup of Kofifi the world has ever seen. Rise up with one voice, drain the swamp, and take back our country. Today's the day we're going to do it, and it's time to do it right now, believe me.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Get up! Get up! This is your cousin.
All right, so far, well, not good, but not as bad as what we're seeing in other parts of the country. I think that's fair to say. Protesters had their say on Wednesday. They were not violent, at least.
Right. Yeah. Flashback Friday tomorrow. Get your music requests in for our bump music. 80s. Okay.
Yes.
So
yes.
1980 to 1989. That's it.
Yep. That's right. And, we've had a couple people say, hey, we haven't done a theme one for a while. So maybe next week.
Yeah.
Maybe next week. But for tomorrow, normal Flashback Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. So 2 left-wing protests happened on Wednesday. One was by every definition peaceful.
Right.
Yeah, which is what we were hoping for. The other was, it was not violent, but it was not peaceful.
Right.
It was in that
it's that gray area.
It was closer to peaceful than violent, but it was in that gray area.
It was disruptive.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. All right, so Fox 2's Jeff Bernthal covered the story. Let me grab just a little bit of his story on this. And if you want to see the entire thing, just go to Fox 2's website or their YouTube page and you can find that. But here's him talking to some of the protesters, particularly on the Tam Avenue overpass.
Protesters in St. Louis
put on display how they feel about the actions of ICE, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, and the administration of President Donald Trump.
It's unconscionable, it's illegal, and it's inhumane.
Getting the attention of rush hour on Interstate 64, protesters say the crackdown against illegal immigrants has gone too far, harming innocent citizens and families.
I'm out here to save democracy.
Say it loud, say it clear, immigrants are welcome here.
The protests lasted for a couple of hours. Some demonstrators have been marching in similar protests in recent months.
The stakes couldn't be much higher. And, I really think that we're close to, losing everything that we value in this country in terms of freedom, justice, and liberty.
And demonstrators also have a message for immigrants in St. Louis.
Immigrants are the future of St. Louis. They come here, many of them pay taxes, they're hardworking, often they start businesses, they bring new cultures to us. They are the future of this city that we live in, that we love so much, and they're the future of the country.
Okay, so
these people are stupid.
Well, yeah, and like for instance, that last
I'm
one,
sorry,
she's blatantly dishonest too.
Yes,
she's referring to legal immigrants who do all of those things.
Yeah.
And they have been an asset. Would South City be what it is without the Bosnians?
Right.
It would not.
No,
without a doubt. But they came here legally and assimilated into the community. So that's the thing. Like, okay, I can just tell you that you're wrong. Like you said, I mean, that's just a stupid thing to say because you're conflating. It's intellectually dishonest.
Yes,
is what it is.
Yes.
But on the TAM Avenue, the TAM overpass, rather, American flags. They had their left-wing protest signs.
They had the pride flags too.
They did have the pride and the weirdo tranny whatever.
Yeah.
They had their bull hunt out. They were chanting and they were waving. But that's how you're supposed to do it.
Yes.
I don't have to like what they said. And matter of fact, I think, like you said, I think what they were saying was stupid and dishonest.
And stupid people are allowed to say stuff.
Absolutely. And
America.
That's one of the beauties is that we defend their right to do that. And they did it the right way.
Now, I do feel that this whole thing is starting to poison the well for people that were sympathetic towards legal immigration, though, because if you look at a lot of the comments, it's like, we need to keep the illegals here because my parents came here legally a bunch of years ago. My grandparents came legally. And it's like, we don't need people from poor third world countries here. We should be looking for people that actually have Western values to come here, that actually want to participate in the great American experiment. So I don't know. I the more that I see people trying to use legal immigration as cover for resisting ICE agents, getting rid of illegal criminals and people that harbor cartel members and all sorts of bad people, the more I see the idea spreading. It's like, well, do we really need legal immigration then?
See, that's an excellent observation. And we happen to have somebody in the room with a direct connection with that.
Yeah. My wife is a legal immigrant and she's and I will say this. All of the legal immigrants in my life, and that includes, the fellow church members and friends and obviously family, they hate, like with a burning passion, illegal immigration. They hate illegal immigrants.
My first wife was a legal immigrant into the country, and she was disgusted by the illegals.
Yes.
Because it was unfair.
Yeah,
it was unjust, and and don't get me wrong, I haven't talked to her in like 25 years, and that's fine, but it was the same thing, and it was the community that she was in. The legal immigrants back in the 90s absolutely detested the illegals, and so you're right. They are trying to write on the backs of the people who did it the right way that we should be welcoming into the country within reason. We have a right to say no, but it's also one of those things where I do think some of the backlash, and I think it's an interesting observation because some of the people on the right are going to go, well, screw them all. We don't want any of them.
Yeah.
And then you become ethnocentric nationalist.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not good either.
Now, to be fair, there is also an argument to be made about the level of immigration that any nation can take. And that includes legal immigration because, and I saw this, I can't take credit for this, the way it's formulated, but basically, if you receive more foreigners than your rate of assimilation, then you get assimilated into the foreigners.
Correct. And that's what's happening in Europe right now.
That's what's happening in Europe.
So we have a right to say no.
Yes.
I mean, there is a healthy immigration aspect that is needed, but we have a right to say no. And we have a right to say no to you, but yes to you.
Yes, that's true.
Because it should be based on what's good for us. I am a pro legal immigrant guy, but we do have a right to say, man, we don't want those.
Right.
They don't have the skill sets. They come from terrorist supporting countries. Their cultures are simply, incompatible with our, there are reasons that we have a valid reason. You don't have a right to come here. I don't have a right to emigrate out to another country.
Mm-hmm.
If I go visit or I want to go move somewhere, I have to do it at their permission because they are sovereign nations.
And every other nation, by the way, has made it very clear that that is their stance. So America is the only one with as liberal of a, and by liberal I just mean
the actual word.
The actual word of
libertas.
Libertas. We are the most liberal in terms of our immigration policy of all nations.
The most generous.
The most generous of all nations.
And you could put all the rest of them together and we still are more generous with our legal immigration.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So look, guys, I've heard various calls for like, maybe we should just pause all immigration. I've heard discussions about that. I was like, I mean, and here's the thing, because people have cited how impossible it is to get rid of the 30 million who are here illegally. Like, even if ICE were to stay on pace, we wouldn't even reach Obama levels of deportation.
Yeah,
by the way.
But what's the self-deportation numbers looking
now?
like?
Of course, the self-deportation numbers, those are going to help. But even then, over the next however many years we can maintain this pace, you're not going to get rid of 30 million. Are you going to be able to assimilate them? Maybe, maybe not. Probably not.
Well, first of all, we have to demand that they assimilate. We stop doing that.
And we stop doing that. Absolutely. So then maybe a pause will give us time to catch up, to assimilate the ones that we already have here, or at the very least to kind of stop the bleeding of American culture.
Well, because that's, again, what I think a lot of people, at least my age, because again, I'm the young buck in the room.
Yes.
But it really does, when you have people that are talking about how their ancestors came here legally. And I mean, we could have the whole debate about, going back to colonial era or whatever.
Sure.
But modern times, they're talking about second generation, third generation, but they're the ones trying to stick up and harbor these people. That comes off very much like an invasion. You are invading us. You are providing the smoke screen to keep these people in here. And we're saying, well, we let you into our home, and now you invite your whole family to squat here. You invite all your friends to squat here, and like now we can't kick you out because the cops won't come because you deserve to be in my house too.
It's the party. You have an invited guest to the party, and then they bring a whole bunch of other people. You ever see these in
those old sitcoms?
In the old sitcoms or the parties, it's like, hey guys, I just wanted a few friends over because my parents aren't here, but you brought half of the basketball team, and I can't deal with this. Yes, it's that way.
Right.
There are too many people at this party. We're not prepared for.
Okay, so let's talk about what's happening in St. Louis here. So the TAM overpass protest was exactly the way you're supposed to do it.
Good protest, guys.
I got no issue with it. I just disagree with what their take is on it.
You're
That's
dumb.
Okay.
Good job.
We're supposed to. That's part of the dialogue we're supposed to have. No issue with that whatsoever. Downtown, they blocked streets and marched through and did the stupid kitty throwing a hissy fit thing.
I'm not slowing down.
I'm not. Yeah. And the police enabled it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. They probably stood in between traffic and
they warned everybody it's affecting traffic, but they didn't stop them.
They didn't care. Yeah.
It wasn't peaceful, but it wasn't violent. But Saturday is the big day, according to these socialists, according to these, anti-American, pro-illegal alien types. Governor Keogh has set up basically a joint command center to monitor everything with local and state and all that sort of thing. So what that means, how are they going to respond if things get crazy? I don't know. They're not tipping their hand on that. But he's made it clear, because remember, the state isn't overseeing the St. Louis Police Department yet.
Right.
So they've set up a joint but not really a task force, a command center to monitor, to bring in resources from around the state if things get ugly and violent. We know that there are at least 4 protests planned on Saturday. I would almost expect that they are going to commandeer and shut down traffic.
At the very least.
At the very least.
Yeah, I think you should expect that.
Yeah, these are the same people who do the anti-Semitic protest, and they shut down traffic, and they're hoping they want St. Louis to look like Los Angeles.
They do.
Now, I don't know if they're going to get that here, but that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
So essentially avoid them at all costs. If you know it's at some part on Manchester, and that's one of them, take the side roads and go somewhere else.
Yeah, and
take a different route.
To a point Jerome made the other day, if you don't bother with them, if you don't give them the headlines of the action going down or the violence or the confrontations, it's just a fart in the wind. You know, like you had to tell me about that Tam overpass,
right?
Because I didn't hear about it. I mean, yeah, they did a little news package on it to get to for them to get out their stupid views, but it's gone now. It's like nobody cares.
Yeah. Where they're going to be on Saturday, I don't know.
So let's avoid them.
See. So keep me updated. If you see stuff setting up around town, let me know. Keep me updated.
Yeah.
On that, because we're going to keep covering it through the weekend.
To give me more. Vic for Vets honoree of the day.
Today on Vic for Vets, we honored Master Sergeant Albert Nowak and Private First Class Jack Benson, thanks to our great supporters, DG Firearms, Patriot Heating and Cooling, and Best Buy Flooring.
The Vic Porcelli Show, weekdays 9 to noon on News Talk STL.
All right, who wants to do a barbecue? All right, we have some people asking about that. Well, our friends at Nutrition Stop have one set up for this month. I'm planning to be there. I hope that you will as well. It is an organic barbecue. This is going to happen June 28th from noon to 3 o'clock. All kinds of great food samples. And trust me, their food is excellent. Mike Ferguson here for my friends at Nutrition Stop. If you haven't already seen the video that we did, I did a video at Nutrition Stop. Check that out. Go to News Talk STL social media or find my Facebook page at Mike Ferguson Media, and you can see that. And every word of that is true. When it comes to putting good, healthy, non-toxic things in your body, Nutrition Stop has you covered. When I have my lunches, when I have my dinners, it is lean meats, whether it is bison, whether it is elk. I mean, that's what I eat there. They've got straight direct from the farm to you food as far as produce goes, which means there aren't chemicals in it. They're not putting it through processors. It is exactly what so many people who are in the MAHA movement say that they want. And if you say, I don't want those dyes, I don't want those chemicals, okay, there's the question as to what government should do, but you don't have to wait for government to do anything. You can go get that right now for you and your family at Nutrition Stop. NutritionStop.com. Also, not just about what you put in your body, but how about what you put on your body? How about things like toothpaste without the fluoride, if that's what you want? How about deodorant without the aluminum that you're rubbing into your skin? How about household cleaners without the toxins? They have all of that at Nutrition Stop. NutritionStop.com. They are on Mexico Road, so just off of Cave Springs and Mexico Road. So basically, if you're on I-70, exit on Cave Springs, go south, turn right on Mexico Road. It's right there in that shopping center, about 2 stoplights down. I think you can't miss it. Just put Nutrition Stop into your GPS there, and of course, look at NutritionStop.com. Vitamins, minerals, supplements, proteins. They've got all of it there. I get my vegetables there as well. I am eating very healthy. I am eating very clean, and I am getting leaner, and I am being healthier in large part because of the advice and because of the food I get at Nutrition Stop. So check it out there, nutritionstop.com. And that organic barbecue, June 28th from noon to 3. Don't need to sign up. Just mark on your calendar and be there. I will see you there.
From home improvement to replacement, do-it-yourself electrical projects can be shocking. That's where Grasser Electric can help. They've been lighting up St. Louis for years. From ceiling fans and dimmer switches to repair or replacing your electric. No job is too big or too small for your home or business. Grasser Electric will even install emergency backup generators. So call Grasser Electric today before the sparks start to fly. 636-441-5200 or go to grasserelectric.com.
Hey, firearms enthusiast, looking for a family and veteran-owned shop with a wide selection of products and services? Head to DG Firearms, 115 Business Highway 61 North in Bowling Green. DG Firearms has been your one-stop shop for custom ARs, Cerakoting, laser engraving, gunsmithing, suppressors, ammo, and reloading supplies. DG Firearms, 115 Business Highway 61 North in Bowling Green, and online at dgfirearmsllc.com.
Hey, Jamie Allman here for the Great Window World. You know, just over the last 20 years of Window World being in St. Louis, they've improved the look and thermal efficiency of more than 76,000 customers in St. Louis. Plus, Window World windows come with a lifetime warranty that covers all parts, glass breakage, and labor. And now Window World is now offering 36 months, same as cash financing with approved credit. Call them today at 314-993-1800, 314-993-1800.
If you have a phone, you have a radio. Download the all-new NewsTalk STL app
Love the all-new NewsTalk STL app.
and listen anytime, anywhere.
Hey everyone, this is State Senator Nick Schroer. I am the host of Stand and Fight every Sunday night. Right now, let's hear more of Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on NewsTalk STL.
All right. Speaking of the legislature, the special session officially wrapped up. Basically, Governor Kehoe got everything that he asked for on that. So we're going to get into some of the details here in just a second. The Kansas City Gold Diggers and the Kansas City Welfare Queens.
Yeah, we'll take it.
Yeah. I mean, those maybe they should rename their teams after scoring big bucks from the taxpayers.
You know, I'd rather see the taxpayers be the money go towards is getting the progress when it comes to fixing the problems at the St. Louis County's animal shelter.
Mm-hmm.
At 7:35, Councilman Mark Harder gives us the update on what on that and on the investigation into Sam Page's illegal campaign spending. Ooh,
yeah, there's something to that. There is an investigation going on with that. All right, 7:23 right now. Got Gabe here, got Jerome here, and Mike. Missouri special session wrapped up, like I said. Not as much drama on the corporate welfare vote as we thought there might be, because the day before, Missouri Net and some others are reporting like, we actually don't know where the votes. Well, it turns out the deals were made and the big chunk of Democrats kind of went the other way on this, and they went with the teams there. So essentially, here's what's going on. And let me break down some of the numbers. We're looking at $1.5 billion is what we're looking at on this. And so the state's going to front that money either by paying for the bonds or just fronting the money, setting it aside, most likely going to be with bonds. And then what's going to happen is the Chiefs and the Royals, whatever taxes are generated from the stadium, so sales taxes, the payroll taxes, everything that normally you say, which is the argument they're making, is, well, we can't lose them. Look at this, what they contribute to the tax base.
But but we're saying what they contribute to the tax base is going to go to pay themselves.
Basically, that's what's going to happen. So this $1.5 billion, and some of that's for the Royal Stadium, some of that's for the Chiefs Arrowhead Stadium, which, by the way, is owned by the Jackson County people.
Right.
So that one actually is publicly owned. But this is for things like upgrades and the suites and the big boxes you can sell for millions of dollars and all this kind of stuff. So here's what's going on is we, the taxpayers, are going to be fronting the money somehow, either directly or through these bonds. And then all that taxes that would normally go into the state coffers, which every other business has to pay, those are going to be diverted to pay off that money, that $1.5 billion between the two teams.
Right.
And so what's going to happen here is that the owners of the Chiefs, the Hunt family, the owners of the Royals, which is a conglomeration of owners, they will not have to pay any of that back themselves. That is taxpayers paying that off for them through purchases. So the money is coming from taxpayers and then will be paid back by taxpayers. The billionaires will not have to pay that part. Now they still have to fund, parts of their own stadiums. It's not a 100% deal.
Right.
And this is assuming they stay in Missouri, because the state of Kansas is offering them even more. And I think they're willing to just basically hand them the money and pay for the construction, most like 70% of the construction themselves. So what happened is the disaster relief, tornado relief funds, which is about $125 million, $100 million basically for direct aid to those who were affected for, housing and things like that. And then another $25 million for other related disaster relief. That's coming to St. Louis. And according to the articles that I've read, and I read 3 articles on this morning, it looks like that was part of the negotiations and the deal to get the stadium vote. So the primary purpose of the special session was to secure the money for the sports teams in Kansas City, the taxpayer money. And then while we're there, let's leverage the deal. And so the Democratic lawmakers, particularly in St. Louis, ended up going for this. Almost 60 Republicans ended up going for this. And also there is now, as part of the deal that was made by Rick Bratton when he flipped in the Senate and voted for this, is that the majority of the counties are going to be able to put a property tax cap on their ballots. And then I think there's like 20 counties where it's just going to be capped. Not all of them, not all the counties get it, but negotiated for some. So there likely are going to be legal challenges here because Missouri law says that the tax law should apply uniformly across the state, and it doesn't.
Right.
And also there's going to be people questioning public funding for these private businesses as well. So I suspect the courts will go the way the governor wants them to go. So this is probably what's going to happen. But the bottom line is that enough Republicans bailed on their small government free market positions. Democrats, they just took the best deal they could get.
Of course.
That's what they did.
That's what
Democrats' focus was get as much money in tornado and disaster relief as possible. And I don't blame them for that.
Well, no, not at all. I mean, and I think if it was a standalone piece of legislation discussing, how much to provide for tornado relief, I think Democrats and Republicans could have come together on that one pretty easily.
Yeah.
Right. Separate. As a separate issue, as a separate entity from this whole billionaire debacle. Right. And I don't like when they tie these things together.
Right.
Because I understand the deal making in politics. And I understand that, in order to get people to vote for the thing they don't like, you try to give them the thing that they do like, the thing that they will support. But I've always, it always rubs me the wrong way when essentially you kind of have legislative hostages, where it's like, okay, don't vote for my billionaire bailout or the tornado victims get it. That's kind of how it feels every single time.
Yeah, and I think I think it was gonna the tornado relief was gonna happen no matter what.
Sure,
and everybody did agree on that, but it was like still find a way to leverage it, that sort of thing. And there was actually additional, like for instance, they've allowed for specific tax deductions. So for instance, if you've got a $1,000 deductible on your home insurance or a $2,000 deductible, you can pay that and then deduct that off your state income taxes.
Right.
So there were some good creative things that were done on that. But here's the thing to keep in mind. Whenever you hear an apologist for this sort of corporate welfare and they say, well, the teams are going to pay that back, or the economic activity is going to pay that back for the taxpayers. No, the taxpayers are paying the taxpayers back.
Right.
None of this is coming from the teams themselves or from the ownership groups.
Yeah.
None, not a penny.
What does the ledger look like?
Yeah.
With this deal in place, right? So you got okay, the government has this outlay, and in order to pay that back, in order to pay that money back, this tax money is going to be diverted away from the general fund and to pay back this loan that we wouldn't have taken out otherwise.
Right.
Now, if let's say we said, you know what, fine, go somewhere else, we don't need you. We don't take out the loan, so we don't have to pay it back.
Right.
And I guess worst case scenario, we don't have the tax revenue. Well, we didn't have the tax revenue anyway,
right?
Because it's going to pay a loan we didn't need to take out. So it's like it's a wash.
It's a wash.
And of course, if you actually call their bluff and they say, you know what, it would be too expensive for us to move and blah blah blah, you keep the tax revenue,
right?
And you don't have the stupid loan you didn't have to take out.
The Show Me Institute was 100% right about this,
absolutely,
from start to finish on this. And so now basically these teams are getting their stadiums and their stadium upgrades courtesy of the taxpayers at a 50 to 60% massive discount, courtesy of the taxpayers. This is not what government should be doing. All right. Just ahead here, we've had some ugly stuff happening with that animal shelter here in St. Louis County.
Yeah.
We're going to get more information about that today. Councilman Mark Harder, as Jerome was saying, is going to give us the update on that right around 7:35.
Now, I know we're all worried about what's going on with these protests and all the other nonsense going on, but I just found out. So MSNBC's Rachel Madcow thinks Trump is in panic mode.
What?
Maybe Larry Connors can fill us in with the details.
What? You mean Rachel Maddow might be wrong about something?
How dare you suggest it?
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Dry night tonight, low of 70 degrees, but more clouds for Thursday. Even a few showers are possible in the late morning to afternoon. Better chance southwest of St. Louis, but we may see a light shower sneak into the metro. Otherwise, a high of 87 and more clouds for Thursday. Friday, a good chance for showers and thunderstorms, some isolated downpours, noticeably more humid, too, with a high of 82. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
John Beal Roofing reminds you we are in the stormy season, and that means if you have even the smallest leak in your roof, you could soon have a much bigger issue. Call to John Bill to make sure that your biggest investment is protected. That call can save you major dollars. If you do get hit during a storm, John Bill has a rapid response team. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF, John Bill.
Larry Connors Commentary, brought to you by Vincent's Jewelers, offering a wide selection of jewelry, including lab-grown diamonds, affordable earrings, bracelets, necklaces, and rings, up to 75% off their natural counterparts. Visit VincentsJewelers.com. This is Larry Connors Commentary on News Talk STL.
When you see video of what's happening in L.A., riots, not protests, do you blame Donald Trump? Of course you do. If you're a leftist, thinking Americans, which could include some Democrats, if they're willing to be truthful, blame Joe Biden and the progressive open border policy. You wouldn't have the riots if millions of illegals were not in our nation. But leftists like MSNBC's Rachel Madcow argue what we're seeing is President Trump in panic mode. That's why he took control of the National Guard, has Marines at the ready. Where you see cars burning, rocks thrown at police, Rachel and her other mad cows see chaos created by Donald Trump. As she said, he had to bring in the army. Sure, game over, big guy. You lose. Really? You know what? Let's end this with a slight change on a slogan you've heard before. We all know how this started, and you know who is to blame. So let's phrase it this way. Trump did not start this, but Trump will end it.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
Hey, want to amaze your friends when they visit? They'll be impressed when they see your custom-made draperies, blinds, or shutters. Michael Proctor will personally help you select the correct colors to truly showcase your home. Then he will actually design, personally install everything. No overhead markup. That's going to save you money on draperies, blinds, or shutters.
Call for an appointment at your home. Spell Proctor like doctor.
It's JC's Wayback Machine. 3 big hours of great tunes from the 90s, 80s, and 70s. Plus bits and pieces that'll take you back to the best years of your past.
It's Father's Day weekend, and on the A-List interview, we'll talk parenting with comedian Jim Gaffigan. Also, it's the 34th anniversary of what we then called the Riverport Amphitheater. You'll hear how we covered it by helicopter. All presented by the Weber Automotive Group.
It's JC's Wayback Machine. Every Saturday night, 6 to 9. News Talk STL.
I'm Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey. Human trafficking is occurring right here in Missouri. You can help combat it by learning the signs of human trafficking and reporting suspicious activity to law enforcement. Victims may appear malnourished, show signs of mental or physical abuse, or avoid social interaction. If you're a victim or know someone who needs help, contact the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 1-888-373-7888 or text the word HELP to Be Free. Together, we can fight human trafficking in Missouri.
Brought to you by the Missouri Attorney General's Office.
Whether at home or at work, you're mobile. So when you're mobile, stay mobile. Keep St. Louis's home for conservative talk with you wherever you go. Download the News Talk STL app in the App Store or at newstalkstl.com.
Hi, this is Jefferson County Councilman Billy Crow with a reminder to check out our new show, Jeffco Patriot Radio, this and every Sunday at high noon. Now, back to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show.
All right, county government is letting the critters down. And by just to clarify, when I say critters, I'm not talking about the pro illegal alien protesters.
Right, yeah.
I'm talking about the actual critters.
Because we
themselves.
like the critters.
By the way, Righty Wright on Rumble, he said, where do I find 10 million bed bugs?
Well, at one of these protests, I think.
Probably from these protesters.
Yeah,
is
yeah.
probably where you find them.
Yeah,
I
I'm
would
pretty
think.
sure
All
that's,
right. But St. Louis County officials want to know why the critters are being let down and what's going to be done to fix the problem.
In the meantime, don't forget this weekend we got Father's Day coming up. So and therefore the end of our NewsTalkSTL Father's Day giveaway. So you go to newstalkstl.com/dad. Enter your dad to win a foursome at a golf round at Sugar Creek Golf Course with some cash for some food as well.
Nice.
Over at the hideout at Sugar Creek. So enter your dad to win, and I think we're going to announce the winner on Friday.
I think so. Yeah, probably later. Probably Tim and Chris's show, maybe later on. But yeah, we're going to have some winners starting at the end of this week.
Get them while you can.
That's right. Joined now by St. Louis County Councilman Mark Harder. It is 7:37 right now. Hey, Mark, appreciate you being on the program. Okay, so you've sent out the subpoenas, you being the county council, for the people who should be in the know of what the heck is happening with the animal shelter here. Have you had responses from the subpoenas? And you've got the meeting today. So is today the day they are supposed to show up for you on the council to question them?
Yes and yes. So just to go back a little bit for your listeners, about a month ago, a little bit more than a month ago, we had an outbreak of a parvovirus through our dog shelter. And that resulted in a decision that was made by the management of the dog shelter to euthanize about 19 animals that we know of. There may be others. And so this didn't sit very well with a lot of folks, and including as the word got out and was reported, the council needed to do our own inquiry. So last week, 10 days ago, we had a public meeting with the health department director, which oversees the dog pounds for other terms. And then we weren't satisfied with the answers we were getting. And of course, the people that really could have given us the answers were not there at that meeting. And so we decided as a council that we would subpoena the people we felt would be in the know and know what went on behind the scenes at that location. So last week we issued 11 subpoenas to appear and to bring documentation that they would benefit the inquiry. And at today's date, we set a meeting date at 3:30 today in Clayton. The public can attend. It's an open meeting. And we are going to have these 11 people. And as far as I know, they've all made arrangements to be there. And we will hear their testimony and be able to question them on this situation.
Morning, Mark. Gabe here. So another investigation that seems to be making some news is the report saying that AG Andrew Bailey is looking into Sam Page's use of taxpayer money to campaign against Prop B. So what can you tell us about what's going on there?
We were talking about at that time.
Yeah,
Mark, you were bringing that up as well.
We saw those mailers.
We know that it happened.
Right. And we know that it happened. And I'm glad that the Attorney General is taking this up. We will see. I hope they have enough to get their investigation started and or prosecution started in this case. It's a very unethical way this issue was dealt with. If you remember, we had a proposition in April on the ballot called Prop B, like boy B, and that was to allow the council to be able to terminate the directors in St. Louis County if we saw fit and had a normal due process to that. And it was our checks and balances over the county executive who hires and fires these people anyway. And this would be, this case with the dog shelter. If this goes the way we think it's going to go, we would have the ability to terminate some of these people and start over with fresh employees. But because Prop B did not pass in April, we don't have the ability to remove these people from office, so they can stay continuing to do the poor work that they're doing. So, we're going to move forward today with this investigation. People, if they want to tune in, they can tune in on the county website under the county council. There's a feature there called Boxcast that you can watch the meeting in real time and or record for a later date. But it should be very interesting how this comes out and some of this testimony that we're looking for.
Yeah, and Mark, let me follow up. I mean, obviously, there's the accountability because this is a government, part of the county government, a government operation here. And somebody may say, "Man, this is making a big deal out of an animal shelter," but it really is. It really is important. Why is it so important to you that we get to the bottom of this, including subpoenas? I mean, this is not something that you normally have to do to get answers. But why is it so important for the council to drill down at this level and kind of drill through the pushback that you're getting? Because I've got a feeling that of those 11 people who were sent subpoenas, majority, maybe all of them, they actually don't want to and maybe wouldn't have shown up if you were just asking politely.
Well, it's funny you should say that because we actually had some folks that are volunteers at the dog shelter, and they've helped out, and they've been there for years. And they've called the council directly and said, "Would you subpoena me?" And we're like, "Well, no, but if you want to come and know something, you can come, and we have a spot in the agenda where you can make your comments about what you know of the dog shelter and the management of it." And so we don't, if you want to come, we don't need to subpoena you. But I thought that's how sensitive this thing and the drama we've had over this dog shelter for many, many years. And this used to be an award-winning dog shelter years ago. And under the Stanger administration, towards the end of his time, before he went to the gated community, and then into Page's term, this has been a lot of drama over there, and a lot of things have changed, and this is just kind of the capstone of a lot of that over the years that's come together.
Tell us what's going on with these public meetings to help seniors avoid scams. What's that all about?
Well, that's a town hall that I'm having next week on the 18th at 6:30 p.m. at the Baldwin Golf Course. And I've had these town halls probably 3 a year, and we pick a topic that we feel that people need to know about. And this topic going around is dealing with scams. We all know and probably have had it perpetrated on us through phone calls or mail scams or you name it, or our friends, and people are getting these calls or they're getting things mailed to them, and it's really preying on the elderly. We've heard calls from residents about that. So I've had I talked with our local law enforcement, and they said, "Oh, we've got detectives that have been working on that. We'd love to come speak." And I said, "Great." So we put together these town halls. So we've got 3 detectives, one from Chesterfield, one from St. Louis County, and one from Baldwin. And they will be our speakers, and they will talk to us about these scams and how to identify them and how to fight back on them and what happens if you become a victim of these scams. So, these scams prey on our elderly families and family members, and we need to identify them and make sure we shut these things down. So we hope it's a free town hall, 6:30 on June 18th. It's a Wednesday night, I believe. And we will be at the Baldwin Golf Course, which is on Holloway Road in Baldwin. Everyone is welcome, not just residents of West County. Anybody that thinks that this would be valuable to them. We look forward to having everybody there and fill the room up for this great information.
Okay, and in the other part of Mark's life, he's now one of the News Talk STL hosts every weekend. What's coming up on St. Louis County Insider this weekend?
Well, our new show called St. Louis County Insider, we've got on Sunday night at 5 p.m. This week, we have 3 guests that we will be talking to. One is the new mayor, Dan Hurt of Chesterfield. He was just elected in April, and we want to talk to him and about his time on the council. And then we have John Nations, who used to be the head of Bi-State and here in St. Louis, and he's in private practice attorney. But he is also very active in what's called the regional freightways. And that was an idea that he came up with years ago on how St. Louis region can be the hub of transportation for the whole country. And so we'll talk to him about that. And then finally, we have Mr. John Bales, who is the director of the St. Louis Spirit Airport. And we'll talk to him about his time there. He's only been the second director in the lifetime of that airport. And we'll be talking about the programs that he offers there for called Red Tail, which is a way of taking high school kids and making them interested in aviation and aviation careers. And a little bit about the airport. A lot of people don't know about the airport, and maybe they've only been there for an air show, but we'll talk about how it is many times and many days the second busiest airport in Missouri. So we'll be talking about that. And so tune in at 5 p.m. on Sunday, and we'll go behind the scenes a little bit about these different topics, and hopefully get people interested in what's going on in their community.
All right, Mark, good talking to you. Appreciate the update. I'll be looking forward to seeing when we find out about the animal shelter at the hearings today, Mark. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay, thank you.
All right, that's going to be, I think, a big deal. A lot of interest in that meeting. It's going to happen this afternoon. Once again, if you can make it, go to the County Government Center in Clayton. But if not, then you can watch it just on the county website here. But they need to get that figured out. Honestly, I think they should privatize it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the best way to do it. That's the best thing it's going to do for not just for taxpayers, but for the animals themselves.
Graduation season is here. Make your parties memorable with Anthony's Produce beautiful fruit and vegetable trays. Perfect for any special event. We're featuring the freshest local produce coming into season, including the best tomatoes in town. Anthony's is your one-stop shop for everything you need. Fresh bison, beef, chicken, and pork. Delicious Fazio bread straight from the bakery. Anthony's Produce on Jungerman in St. Peters. Call 636-936-0496 or stop by today.
You know, when it comes to beautifying your community and your neighborhood, it begins with your home, because your home says a lot about you and your family. And you know who's here to help? Lemay Concrete Block Company. Mike Ferguson here for Lemay Concrete Block. You can learn more at lemayblock.com. And I know there's a lot of people who do, frankly, what Rachel and I have been doing for years. We would take a walk, and we would go through areas where the homes are beautiful. We've got all this brick and concrete all over St. Louis because that's the look that we have here. And we say, man, I would love our home to look like that. You know, I'd love to have that kind of walkway, maybe that kind of retaining wall, maybe that kind of garden wall. And whatever it is, Lemay Block can get that in place for you and tell you how to do it. So give them a look at lemayblock.com. You can also call them at 314-638-9940. They're right here in St. Louis. And what they do is they will not only provide you the materials, whether you need garden walls or retaining walls or ready mix concrete or whatever it is, no matter how simple or how complex, whether it is for structural work or whether it is for beautification, they have what you need. And that includes the know-how and the advice. You come in with an idea, they will tell you how to get it done and equip you to do it. Even if you want one of those beautiful outdoor fireplaces to go alongside your pergola or your outdoor furniture, they can show you how to do that. They can set that up. You can get that from them and make your home the envy of your neighbors, but also the pride that you have in that home ownership and being the people who are, frankly, making it clear, we're beautifying our neighborhood. We're beautifying the community. We need a lot more of that in St. Louis. So check them out, limeblock.com, or if you want to go look at them, just put it in your GPS, Lime Concrete Block. It'll take you right there in St. Louis, and they have what you need. Maybe you just need precast concrete. Maybe you just need ready mix concrete. Maybe you're just laying another patio, whatever it is. They will get you from concept and dream to reality and enjoyment and beautification of your home. Lime Concrete Block Company, supplying St. Louis since 1947. Mike Ferguson here. Retirement should be a time you can relax. No more stress from work. But there's one thing you can't forget about when retiring. That's your money. Do you have enough saved to fund your income for life and keep up with inflation? How will you claim your Social Security benefits? And what about long-term care? The ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel is here to help answer all of these questions. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investing during On the Money, hosted by Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert, every Saturday morning at 9, right here on News Talk STL. They can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create an investment portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call 636-695-2650, 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Hi, this is Susie Moore. Check out my show, Red State Radio, Sunday afternoon at 4, right here on News Talk STL. Now it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
All right. It just seems that with technology, one of the benefits of it is that we don't have to deal with people as much directly.
I appreciate a lot of those innovations.
Is there going to be a day when you go check into a hotel and you never actually have to talk to a person or hand something over to them?
That would be wonderful.
Yeah, apparently that's actually happening. I'll tell you about that here in just a second. And ask the question, what else should hotels get rid of? Some things here. All right, 7:53 here. I'm Mike. We got Gabe here. I got Jerome here. And we just got some thoughts on the follow-up to that conversation we had with Councilman Mark Harder from St. Louis County Council regarding the whole animal shelter situation, because it's not just a niche thing. This is actually something that government typically has to deal with. Got some thoughts on that? We did. Looks like we lost him. Not there?
Or is it different line, maybe?
No, that was okay. Well, lost him there. All right. Anyway. There you are. There you are. Who am I talking to here?
I'm back. Charles Grotke, County Council District.
Oh, hey,
Jefferson
Charles.
County.
How's it going, Charles?
How are you? Yeah, I was just listening to comments from Mr. Harder this morning, and with all the commotion in St. Louis County about their animal problem, I checked into our Animal Resource Center here in Jefferson County, and the U.S. Department of Agriculture has done an inspection out there in early part of May, and everything is in good condition in Jefferson County. So
good.
Just to let your listeners know what's our status is here.
Yeah, see, and that's the thing, Charles, is like when things are running the way that they should,
we don't hear
you
about
don't
them.
notice.
Yeah.
It's when something goes wrong that everybody puts the spotlight on it. But it's like, how great is the road crew doing? Well, I don't know. I have no idea. Well, your street looks good. So you don't know. But when the pothole happens, then everybody, gets worked up. But that's a good thing to check, because these are things a lot of people don't realize. These can be touchy areas for a lot of people. And it's when something goes wrong that people start paying attention. So I appreciate you checking when things are going right.
Well, years ago, we went through major problems with animal control here in Jefferson County, and we built a new facility, and it's been very important to a lot of the citizens. So that's why I keep an eye on it.
Hey, appreciate it, Charles. Good chat with you, man.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, because that's actually not even just about the animal welfare, which is important.
Yes, yeah.
But it's also about the there is a public health aspect of this.
Absolutely.
And there is a public safety aspect of it in particular. And I did not learn that until I got elected to office.
Yeah.
At
There's
that
some
local
things
level.
you find out when you do go that way, right?
Yeah, because you would think, we should just let the nonprofits and frankly, the nonprofits often do a better job than government does.
True.
But there are some governments that do a good job with it. In St. Louis County, they've had such a debacle that when they had to get bailed out, they went into APA, a nonprofit, and contracted out for them to run things, took it back over, and then crap fell apart
very
crazy.
quickly.
Yeah. And so I wonder if they shouldn't just go ahead and contract with the nonprofit. That way you can hold somebody accountable at one central point. And the reality is that, Sam Page may very well get reelected, even though everybody hates him, just because that's what happens in blue counties. And so far, his administration has shown that it's incompetent when it comes to managing the actual day. There's one thing about we disagree with him because of his big government, leftist, ridiculous mindset and worldview.
Right.
That's one thing. But when it comes to actually being administrator, he sucks. And this is the result of that happening is things don't work out when you're not good at your job, and he's not good at his job, and it rolls downhill.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I would very much like to have a functioning, animal shelter.
Right. Well, we have to have one.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you just do. Like there are some free roaming cats that are good for
Right. You
know,
have to have a certain number.
You have to have a certain number,
but you want them spayed or neutered.
And you want them spayed or neutered.
Yep.
And also, there's a limit to how many an area can support, and you do not want wild dogs.
No, not in the least bit. That's why these things have to run, and of course, the humane part of caring for the animals that we're charged with being stewards.
Yeah.
And so you just got to do that. All right, let's go take that. Hey, when things are going well somewhere, I don't mind reporting on that either.
Attention off-road enthusiasts. Iron Bear Customs has the strongest bumpers on the planet. Plus, brush guards, lift kits, and custom cages for all vehicles. Visit ironbearcustoms.com and mention NewsTalkSTL for 10% off. Iron Bear Customs, built tough for the toughest terrain.
Discover Patriot Powder Coating, your family-owned specialist in Pacific. From small jobs to big projects, we got you covered. Visit our showroom or call 636-551-0377. Mention NewsTalkSTL for 10% off.
Hey there, Chris Cooper here, Serenity Wealth Management. We are going to turn up the volume this weekend, talking about surround sound, visual audio, and a little bit of finance as well on Serenity Wealth Now Radio. Joining us in studio, David Young of the Sound Room from Chesterfield is out to talk about the quality of service he has delivered to the St. Louis community for 42 years and counting.
Serenity Wealth Now with Chris Cooper, Sunday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
Dr. Randy Tobler here, and I know that when you're looking for a dentist, you have to make sure you choose a dental practice that's compatible with you and the needs of your family. Well, I'd like to tell you about my dentist, Dr. Dan Cusimano, and his partner, Megan Dwyer, and their team at Advanced Dentistry at St. Charles. The great team at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles can accommodate all of your cosmetic and restorative needs because their passion is general dentistry. Implants, crowns, bridges, even dentures. That what you need the most is what they'll provide in a personalized, focused way. And they can provide therapeutic and cosmetic options like Botox and dermal fillers. Get to know them and all they have to offer by calling 636-978-0226 or visit them on the web at advanceddentistrynow.com. That's Dr. Daniel Cusimano and Dr. Megan Dwyer at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles.
That's Advanced Dentistry Now, 636-978-0226. Or visit them on the web at advanceddentistrynow.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green.
This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. The Air India jetliner, 242 people on board, crashed just moments after takeoff this morning from an airport in northwest India. The crash preceded by a Mayday call, the BBC's Samira Hussain following development.
Emergency crews are already at the scene, which appears to be a residential area near the Ahmedabad International Airport. The Air India flight operates from Gujarat to London Gatwick 4 times a week.
Dozens of bodies have been recovered, according to rescue crews, and local police say it appears no survivors. Fears of a conflict between Israel and Iran over Iran's nuclear program are growing That's prompting the U.S. to evacuate some non-essential personnel from the region. Attorney General Bondi says the Trump administration will use all of the tools at its disposal to safeguard people and property threatened by riots in L.A. and elsewhere.
Right now in California, we're at a good point. We're not scared to go further. We're not frightened to do something else if we need to.
More cities seeing rowdy demonstrations over enforcement of federal immigration law. Senator Rand Paul planning to propose a drastic cut in funding for border security in the Senate's version of that big, beautiful bill.
The House version of the bill calls for some $150 billion for border security, but Paul, who chairs the Senate Homeland Security Committee, says only about half that will be needed. He says that's especially true since border crossings have already plummeted after President Trump was reelected. Just one reason Paul believes his committee can trim tens of billions of dollars from the House bill. Bob Agnew reporting.
President Trump expected to sign a measure today blocking California's ban on the sale of new gas-powered cars by 2035. On Wall Street, the Dow futures down 177 points. NASDAQ futures off 59. More on these stories, townhall.com.
Let's see, if something costs less, a lot less, but people are actually happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that's MetaShare. Maybe you've heard joining MetaShare can save you or your family up to $500 a month, and that's huge, but it's also true. People are just happier with it. They love being part of something that reflects and promotes their values and what they believe in. MetaShare works, too. It's been around for 30 years now, and members have shared more than $7 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network, so yeah, really, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care, whether you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan that you're happy with. Here you go. You can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. A very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. It's 844-41-BIBLE. That's 844-41-BIBLE. 844-41-BIBLE.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Increasing cloudiness and humidity today as we tiptoe closer to this active weather pattern. A spot shower possible this afternoon, but boy, rain's going to be tough to find. 85 for the high with a light south wind. Rain chances increase a bit tonight under cloudy skies, the overnight low at 69. More humid Friday with scattered rain and storms, some downpours possible up to 81 Friday afternoon. Rain chances linger into the weekend, but boy, they steadily decrease to only 20% by Father's Day. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com.
Tony Colombo here for my dentist, Dr. Matt Boscia at New Creation Dental Care, the one-stop shop for all your family's dental needs. And Dr. Boscia is always expanding his services, now including the incredible all-on-4 full arch implant procedure, full mouth restoration that can give you back your smile in as little as 1 day. No more suffering with damaged or missing teeth or poor-fitting dentures. You can see some amazing smile makeovers, learn more about the all-on-4 procedure, and see everything Dr. Boscia can do right now at newcreationdentalcare.com.
Jeffco Patriot Radio.
Hey guys, I don't know about you, but I love learning about national and international issues here on News Talk STL. But do you know what's going on in your neck of the woods, your city, your county, and its politics? If you live in Jefferson County and want to know more about what's happening locally, join Speaker Tim Jones and me, Councilman Billy Crow, as we dive into all things Jefferson County on Sundays at high noon on Jeffco Patriot Radio.
Jeffco Patriot Radio.
On News Talk STL.
Mike Ferguson.
Are you pretending to be crazy? Wow, you're really pumped about this.
Gabe Pfeiffer.
Get up! Can't you hear the alarm?
Get up, St. Louis.
The best answer to the toxicity of the left is the truth.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Get up! This is your cousin God.
All right, the pro-illegal alien protest started with a bang in other cities, but it started with more of a whimper here, and that's not a bad thing. Not a bad thing for us. By the way, at 8:35, Lieutenant Governor David Wasinger going to be with us to give us his take on all of this as well. We have determined that the Kansas City Royals should be renamed the Kansas City Gold Diggers.
Mm-hmm.
So now should the Kansas City Chiefs be renamed the Kansas City Welfare Queens?
I like it. I think it fits.
I'm saying let's do the change whatever petition.
Change.org.
Let's get it going. Let's get it going. And Republicans get another win over Democrats, but this time I am talking about something outside of the campaign trail and outside of the Capitol. It is 8:06. Let's go ahead and dump some news on you here.
The Morning News Dump, brought to you by The Nutrition Shop. The Morning News Dump.
Are you joking? Is this a joke?
Listen, folks, the Morning News Dump.
All right, the left-wing protests around here are off to a pretty mild start. A small number of leftist wave signs on the Tam overpass Wednesday afternoon, but that was really all that happened. In downtown St. Louis, a socialist organized protest blocked streets for a little while. More demonstrations are planned around the area for Saturday. Was it Lunch Lady, I think, who put up on the Rumble chat box saying, "Hey, did you see the Mexican flag at the Tam overpass?" One, I did not, because at the time when I got in this morning, I didn't see Channel 4's coverage of this, which apparently shows somebody waving the Mexican flag on this.
Mm-hmm.
What Channel 2 showed was a big long row of American flags and then a couple of gay pride flags.
Well, I mean,
yeah, so
I at least see the American flags,
right? Well, there were a lot of American flags, and so because what we're seeing in California, and what we're seeing in Seattle, and what we're seeing in Chicago, and we're seeing a whole bunch of Mexican flags, and I didn't see a single one in Channel 2's coverage. But then Lunch Lady sent us Channel 4's coverage, and there was somebody waving a Mexican flag. So I think it's like you said just off air a few seconds ago. At least at that one, they understood the optics better.
Yeah, they absolutely did. And of course, the media, I think in not showing the Mexican flag out here, I think the media understood the assignment because this is Missouri. We don't really deal with that crap the same way as Los Angeles would.
Yeah. All right. So LA bracing for another night of the violence, and Marines are now posted outside the city. They have already received training to non-lethally subdue demonstrators. City leaders in LA imposing a curfew again. Acting ICE director, his name is Todd Lyons, is in Los Angeles, and he was on Hannity last night on Fox.
It's bad out here. And to think that all we're trying to do is our law enforcement mission, and we have to deal with this, it's so un-American on so many different scales.
Yeah, un-American is a good way to put that. Over 200 rioters.
Yeah, that's the right word.
Yeah, have been arrested in LA. And frankly, ICE and Tom Homan and Kristi Noem and obviously President Trump, they have all reacted essentially by doubling down, saying you will not intimidate us into going away. And they are now increasing the raids going after illegal aliens in that area. So basically, you got both sides basically thumbing their nose at the other.
Yeah. Dan Bongino, about an hour ago, he posted on Twitter, illegal immigration operations will continue. Any attempt at intimidation will fail miserably. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah. So that's because I think that's what the leftist protesters are trying to do, is to make it to where it's not worth it for the administration and not worth it for law enforcement to enforce the law and protect the country, because you've got so many, violent rioters who are allowed to, as opposed to peaceful rioters, there's so many rioters who are being allowed to run roughshed. And so now they're running into administration that says, no, we're going to punch back. We're going to hit back. So this bottom line is this could get really ugly, but that might be what's needed to turn the tide culturally, so that the violent left has to try to go back and start winning ideas instead of just with Molotov cocktails.
Yeah, in the past they were trying to use basically the heckler's veto, mob rule, essentially, to sort of cow people who just like peace. Just like fine, and that you just everybody just quiet down. Is just people's desire for that. But I think the public has a greater tolerance now for just like, you know what? If this is what needs to happen in order to get immigration under control, we're okay with it.
Right.
Let the cops loose, let the law enforcement loose, get the National Guard involved, do what needs to be done to make sure this stuff continues. I think the public is on our side in this. This may be another one of those 80-20 issues.
Yeah, it's getting there. That's for sure.
Now, just on a good note, we have a listener, Scotty, who he's actually part of law enforcement. He's saying that Jeffco right now, there's nothing really they're anticipating that's going to go wrong, or they're not really all that worried about it. So if things get a little too spicy, in the St. Louis area, let's just all go to Jeffco and hang out for a little bit.
Oh yeah, hang out.
Yep. All right, who's paying for all this? That's one of the questions Senator Josh Hawley is asking. He's launching an investigation into a so-called immigrant rights group that he says may be bankrolling the riots in Los Angeles.
Senator Hawley chairs the Judiciary Subcommittee on Crime and Terrorism and says he wants to know whether funding for the riots came from a local nonprofit, the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights, or CHIRLA. The organization has received funding from sources including the Department of Homeland Security. Hawley says now credible reporting suggests CHIRLA may be providing logistical support and financial resources to some of those involved in the riots. Bob Agnew reporting.
Okay, so somebody's paying for all this. This isn't grassroots. This isn't organic, as we've been saying for the last few days. And so peaceful protest over Tam Overpass. And again, I disagree with what they were saying, but they did it the right way. Downtown St. Louis yesterday, they were marching through the streets and taking over and not allowing people to drive on a small scale. Not violent, not peaceful. Unfortunately, St. Louis police allowed them to do that, probably because they don't want to get into the violence aspect of this. Let's see what happens on Saturday. Multiple protests and demonstrations are planned. This gives them a few days to bus whoever it is that they want to get in as agitators. Don't be surprised if they start choking off traffic and they start shutting down roads. And we're going to see just how serious our law enforcement is about maintaining law and order. Let's find out.
Yeah. And by the way, is it just me or does churla sound like you can get it at a Mexican restaurant and it's delicious?
It's got cinnamon on it.
Yeah.
It's very good.
It does. Yes.
It's very good. All right. So this is a done deal. Missouri state government is going to put up $1.5 billion ish to help build the Kansas City Royals a new stadium and to cover a significant part of the cost of upgrading Arrowhead Stadium for the Chiefs. The plan is for the teams to use the taxes generated by the stadiums to then pay off that $1.5 billion. So the money is still coming from taxpayers on both ends, both the money that's put up front and the money that's used to pay that off. The legislature also approved $125 million in disaster relief funds, most of which is going to go to those hit by the St. Louis tornado last month. And there are other things included in that bill, including things like allowing for increased income tax deductions. You can deduct your homeowner's insurance deductible, basically, in order to rebuild your house. So they've increased that, which is, I think, creative and a good idea.
Imagine paying half of your own tenant's rent because you want them to keep using the laundry machine. And the proceeds from the laundry machine are going to pay back the loan you had to take out to pay half of their rent.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Yes.
That's literally what we're doing.
Just terrible economics.
God awful.
Terrible. Okay. Republicans beat the Democrats in Washington. I'm not talking about a vote on a bill, or I'm not talking about an election. I'm talking about the 2025 congressional baseball game. Final score, Elephants 13, Jackasses 2, Donkeys. Sorry.
But you're right, though.
Sorry.
But you're right.
All right. That is 5 wins in a row for Republicans. Here's actually the play-by-play of the first hit that the GOP got in that game in front of 31,000 people.
Going to throw 80-90. Just be patient. He reaches out for that one, and he's going to touch down for a base hit. First hit of the night for the GOP. Eric Schmidt.
There it is.
Your very own.
So he's now got a 3-game hit streak in the annual event. He also got plunked. He got hit by a pitch again, so he's got a 2-game getting plunked streak. That's happening.
Take your base, sir.
The funny now he did it entirely the right way because it hit him like in the arm, upper chest area, kind of on the side.
Oof.
And so, he tossed his bat to the dugout, and you saw him, the camera was on him, and he kept like waving, no, I'm fine. He did like the tough guy thing.
Yeah, you're supposed
to. I'm fine. No, I'm good. Just shake it off. Just move on, which is exactly what you're supposed to do.
That's what you're supposed to do, regardless of how big the bruise is.
That's right.
No, I wanted to see them clear the benches.
Let's go!
Oh,
it's what we deserve, okay?
They raised over $2 million for charities.
That's
in
pretty
that
awesome.
area. Cardinals end up getting swept by the Blue Jays at Busch Stadium. Lost the final game of that series 5-2. Redbirds now start a series on the road with Milwaukee. First pitch with the Brewers is at 6:40 today. We got Sonny Gray on the mound. Brewers are only half a game behind the Cardinals in the Central Division right now.
And all at once depart, no destination, making cold my heart to fight your war. Stop it right now!
Well, there you go again, listening to Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Hungry for the best steak you'll ever have? Head to the heart of Moscow Mills and discover Harry J's, a local landmark and family-owned steakhouse, serving up excellence since '98. From mouth-watering appetizers to decadent desserts, Harry J's has something for everyone. Enjoy our extensive bar selection while soaking in our friendly family atmosphere. Whether dine-in or carry out, your meal is prepared to perfection. Make the drive to 300 Main Street and treat yourself to a taste of Moscow Mills' finest. Harry J's, more than a steakhouse. We're a tradition.
Jamie Allman here, tossing and turning over retirement worries. You're not alone. 3 out of 4 Americans share your concern about having enough saved. But here's the thing. A comfortable retirement isn't out of reach, even if you're planning for 30 or 40 years ahead. Every day, Jeff Portman from the Gemini Wealth Group helps people avoid the critical mistakes that can derail their retirement. Build your path to financial confidence. Visit GeminiWealthGroup.com or call Jeff directly at 314-888-0123.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member FINRA, SIPC.
For 3 generations, one family has ruled the road in quality asphalt paving. Ruby's King of the Road Hot Mix Asphalt Paving. Family owned and operated. We're your leading authority for driveways, lanes, and parking areas. No project is too small or too large. We cater to both residential and commercial needs with unbeatable quality at just $38 per square yard plus labor. Call 636-295-9949. 636-295-9949. Ruby's King of the Road Hot Mix Asphalt Paving. You save when we pave.
You want the best place to watch baseball or any sport and be able to enjoy premium cigars and whiskeys? Lit Cigar Lounge. Lit has so many events each month. You need to constantly check the Lit Cigar Lounge Facebook. You don't want to miss anything. Plus, you can order food from Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta, delivered within minutes right to your table. By the way, we're in the season for great patio dining. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta has your table waiting.
Thanks for taking my call.
News, analysis, opinion.
Radio news junkie. Love every bit about it.
News Talk STL.
Hey, Chris Arps from the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Make sure that you're listening to our show this afternoon from 4 to 6. Now back to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show.
All right, 8:35, Lieutenant Governor David Wasinger going to be with us. Obviously, we now have the special session wrapped up. And when I was texting with Lieutenant Governor yesterday to set this up, they were still debating stuff. So now we have some finality to the disaster relief, obviously, to the stadium thing. And then we've also got what's the state going to do and how should we react if the protests get ugly here in Missouri, in the St. Louis region in particular. We're going to talk to him about that about 12 minutes from right now. It is 8:19. Yeah.
Don't forget, we've got podcasts available too. Yes. So if, basically any segment, any show that you might have missed, you can go back and get those. And also you can get the new stuff. Just subscribe on whatever platform you get your podcasts on, and you can go down.
Yep, that's right. Okay, so before we talk to Lieutenant Governor, one of the really interesting sort of legal battle that affects essentially any of us who use social media. Like, was it yesterday or the day before I sent you that AI video?
Yeah.
For some reason, I am getting all of these reels, and they are freaking hilarious.
They're awesome. It's like it's the selfie video of some random character from various things.
But it's Bigfoot. I'm getting it's Bigfoot is like a bro. And whoever's doing these AI videos, and they're really high quality. I mean, they're like visually very high quality, and they're hysterical. Like, he picked up the wrong mushrooms in one of them.
Oh no!
And and so he's got a vlog of Bigfoot being tossed on hallucinate. It's just hysterical.
I saw one of the gorilla, of the 100 men versus gorilla, on a podcast talking about how it would go down.
Oh, that's
hilarious.
Okay, so now though, I also saw one of a guy, and you told me about this. It's funny because you told me about it, and then later on, I go on my reels and it popped up.
Oh, really? Which one is this?
The one about the stormtrooper.
Oh yeah, that's right. The
and so
stormtroopers,
somebody's doing like a, hey man, day in the life working here at the Death Star and that sort of thing. Which, by the way, speaking of classic movies, you just pointed out real quick, just quick detour.
Yeah, very quick detour. Just to make you feel old, especially if you saw this in theaters.
Yeah,
Jaws. 50th anniversary as of June 20th. So if you saw Jaws,
we turn tomorrow.
If you saw Jaws in the theaters when it came out, tell us how your knees are doing. But you got to get your arthritis medicine. Right. But seriously, and one of the things that always occurred to me about Jaws, one of the greatest things about Jaws was the suspense in that movie kind of made the movie. And the reason that it had so much suspense, and I love these stories about how these things are made, is because the mechanical sharks they built, I think 3 of them, were terrible. They looked bad on film. They were huge. They were unwieldy. Of course, working in the water is always a problem. So they were like, okay, this doesn't really look good on film. I know the script calls for us to show the shark here, but we're just going to show the fin moving through the water. So the suspense was created by them trying to overcome the limitations of filming at the time. Now, of course, these days
turned out brilliant.
It was brilliant. And there's so many movies I think in that period that became great because they had to overcome so many of these obstacles. Now there's so much money flying around the studio system. And of course you could CG anything.
Yep.
I've seen them CG like a bruised eye on somebody just because they forgot to do the makeup or something stupid like that. They didn't want to reshoot it. It's crazy what they can do. But of course, I think all of that benefit makes these movies terrible now.
Well, it is because it's less creative.
It's less creative.
It's far less creative.
I'm actually surprised. I thought that was a trained shark that they used.
You thought it was a trained
shark?
Right. No, that was actually the original idea. They were like, we could train a shark to do that. And then they talked to somebody who actually knows anything about sharks. They're like, what are you kidding?
Yeah. They pulled out the Encyclopedia Britannica and went, no, you can't.
No, you can't train those. Yeah.
So, and which is why, because there was like these, not monster movies, but there was like the alligator in the sewer system movie, and there were all of them. So I would have been like 3 when Jaws came out. So I didn't see it in the theaters, but I remember being 6 or 7 when they put it on TV.
Yeah, me too.
5 or 6 or 7 or something like that.
I saw it on TV as well.
Scared the crap out of me.
Absolutely.
I mean, so it did what it was supposed to do on that.
Now, of course, these days you just put a prompt in AI to say, okay, and it knows what sharks look like. It knows how they move. It knows how they behave because the AI has watched Shark Week many times.
That's right.
So it can create a fully realized Jaws movie probably just from a series of prompts.
Well, and that's the thing is because when we first brought this up, when AI was really becoming, and I think it was been a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
There were obvious tales. You could obviously.
It's like, okay,
I
that's
have
fake.
seen
That's
some
fake.
videos now where it's like, is that AI? I mean, it's getting better every single day. So here's what's going on is Disney and Universal, they are suing a company called Midjourney, which does artificial intelligence videos.
Yes.
Because now I don't know if this is the one where those people are making those Reels videos or not, but what's happening is people are making AI with like Marvel characters, with what's the
Star Wars,
Star Wars characters,
and now Universal. I'm trying to think of what franchises they own.
But they're using all of their characters, and people are using that. And so now what you have is, well, what's the legal ramifications? They spent tens or hundreds of millions of dollars to own these characters, to own these properties. And so AI comes in and anybody can create a video. And most of the time, if you create a video, they don't really care. But if you're monetizing, if it's commercial purposes, so now there's a lawsuit over copyright, basically trying to stop them from letting you create a video of, Darth Vader,
right?
Talking about how much you hate the, ant problem in your garage or whatever it is.
Right. Yeah. You could have an actual video of the stormtrooper at the cantina lamenting over his drink. Just like, those were the droids we were looking for. So, and of course in doing so, you're obviously using the images, you're using the basically you're keying off of all of the things that belong to these organizations that they make money off of. So and Jerome, you brought up an interesting point. We were talking about this, during the break about parody. right?
Right.
So with copyright law, my understanding, at least when I was taking these courses, was if it is in the spirit of something, but it is not a direct, like you're not claiming this is your own intellectual property, and you're not doing, in order for it to be an actual copyright claim, the organization would have to say, this is actually something we would do in this canonical universe, and it has to be just different enough that you are altering it to where you're not deceiving somebody into thinking it's the actual company doing it.
They're trying to misrepresent us.
Right. Think of, like, for instance, how does Weird Al Yankovic get away with it?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Because now he has a rule of asking permission of the artist,
but he doesn't have to.
He doesn't have to
at all.
Yeah. He can take their song and write a parody. Now he still has to pay them royalties if they wrote the music to it, so he still owes the royalties for that.
But
you're
lyrics.
Allowed to do it because it's clearly a parody, and you're not trying to misrepresent.
And same thing with like these voice people that will do a Trump impersonation. And
Right.
it sounds like you could almost imagine Trump actually saying some of this stuff, but it's clear that it's somebody doing, a bit. So the way AI, to my knowledge, it works with imaging is that, yes, they are referencing all sorts of different artwork, but some of it, but the ruling that I believe happened was, you cannot copyright the actual artwork of AI because of the fact that it samples so much other people's work that you did not create. So it's just kind of like a Creative Commons public domain type thing.
Yeah.
I know Disney's got the money to do it, but I don't understand. I mean, it's scary to the president that this could send if they win.
Well, and that's the thing, though. But at the same time, if you copyright and you have intellectual property, let's say that we come up with something here at News Talk STL that's a News Talk STL mascot and character, and we're selling, whatever
T-shirts
products or T-shirts or stuffed animals, or we're monetizing our videos, which is really what this is all about. And those get monetized and they're effective, and somebody takes that character and monetizes it for them. Okay, well, now what? We created that. And so that's what's happening here is, Lucasfilm sold to whoever it was for Star Wars stuff. And so Darth Vader and Yoda and all of these different characters, they own that. So if somebody creates something that is being monetized with their intellectual property, where's that line? Especially even if you're not selling a product, even if you're just getting X number of views and you're making money off of it.
You're monetizing your videos.
Are you allowed to make a profit off of somebody else's property, at least without paying them?
Right. Because
is that parody?
You could make all kinds of content, just putting AI prompts and using popular characters from various franchises, and you could just throw those videos out on any one of these social media platforms. You gain a following, and all of a sudden you're raking in dough. And just off of views. It's all you, and it's completely AI written, completely AI generated, but you could make money off of the views. So then, does that warrant this sort of action from the copyright holders? Like, wait a second. I mean, you're creating something, but you're basing it on us. We at least should get a cut.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And then, like, for instance, on a similar, somebody was asking, do we have to pay for like the bump music that we use here? Short answer is yes. We do. We buy a license to be allowed to use that. So we don't use anything that's copyrighted from somebody else that's not paid for.
And even to go a step further, so if you are a cover band, right? Because a lot of people have seen cover band.
Yeah, that's right.
If you are going to be a dedicated cover band, you are actually supposed to pay for the rights to cover the songs. I mean, it's not as much as you would if you were going to play it at like an arena, but the copyright law is not just I did my version of it. It's fair use. No, it has to specifically fall under what is called fair use, Creative Commons, or public domain.
Right. Yeah. A song can be old enough. Like, for instance, Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys just died yesterday.
Right.
And so some of the Beach Boys music may be in the public domain now because the copyrights have expired. So you could do something from, 50, 60 years ago, depending on what they've done with the copyright. But the cover band at the bar, if they're going to remain legal, they are supposed to have permission and pay the royalty. That's pennies, but they're supposed to pay that. But like, for instance, when I did my syndicated show, American Viewpoints, which I don't do anymore, but I purchased the rights to use royalty-free music, so I paid for it up front every year just to make sure I was not using somebody else's property without their permission. So I bought the right to do that. And that's the way you're supposed to do it. That's the free market.
I think this lawsuit portends a lot of rulings and law changes and things that are going to have to come. Because the AI revolution is here.
Yep.
And it's been here for a little while.
We're behind it.
Absolutely.
Mike Ferguson in the morning
I'm a very stable genius.
on News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Increasing cloudiness and humidity today as we tiptoe closer to this active weather pattern. A spot shower possible this afternoon, but boy, rain's going to be tough to find. 85 for the high with a light south wind. Rain chances increase a bit tonight under cloudy skies, the overnight low at 69. More humid Friday with scattered rain and storms, some downpours possible up to 81 Friday afternoon. Rain chances linger into the weekend, but boy, they steadily decreased to only 20% by Father's Day. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
Fox News commentary.
Governor Newsom filed an emergency motion to block the Trump administration from sending in reinforcements to protect his largest city. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at ethos.com/policy. That's ethos.com/policy.
California Governor Newsom hit one of the final stages of Trump derangement syndrome, and that is filing an emergency request to block the president from using troops to protect his state's largest city from burning to the ground. Yes, because Newsom didn't have the good enough sense or moral will to call in the National Guard on his own, President Trump stepped up for the city of LA on his behalf. And while Democrats don't want you to believe your eyes, or worse, want you to believe arson is mostly peaceful, it's obvious to those of us with eyes and ears, the city and its police force need help. But instead of doing the right thing, Gavin is not only suing the administration for sending in the National Guard, he's begging for this emergency request to block the White House from using troops to assist with immigration raid support. Gavin, your political career is way, way over. I'm Tommy Lahren, and you can watch my show, Tommy Lahren is Fearless, at Outkick.com.
Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros, your all-in-one gutter service team that brings years of experience and quality that's affordable right to your doorstep. We discovered Gutter Pros a few years ago when we bought our home and inherited a gutter issue that was on the road to becoming a potentially big problem, but thanks to Gutter Pros was stopped before causing any major damage. They've also repaired the siding on our home because along with gutter repair, gutter installation, and leaf protection, the Gutter Pros are also the best for siding repair and installation. Learn about all the ways Gutter Pros can help your home at gutterpros.com.
Simply Health with Dr. Brian Deloney.
On this weekend show, make sure you're there because we're going to be, not only we're going to be introducing the show and talking about a little bit more about what we do, but we'll be talking about Blue Pea and what that's all about and why are people so excited to get their pea blue. And we're going to be talking about the biggest mistakes people are making, preventing them from losing weight.
Simply Health, Saturdays at noon on News Talk STL. To find out more about Simply Health Integrated Medical, log on to simplyhealthintegrated.com.
The Napoli heritage of fine dining continues with Napoli Kirkwood. Napoli Kirkwood, now open. So add that to Cafe Napoli in Clayton, Napoli 2 in Town and Country, Napoli 3 in St. Charles, right next door to Napoli C. And don't forget about Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in the district, Chesterfield Valley. All of those locations, plus now, open, Napoli Kirkwood.
If you find yourself feeling out of place in the world, it's comforting to know conservative values haven't been abandoned everywhere.
The far left wants to destroy conservative values in America.
This is News Talk STL. Welcome home.
Hey, this is Todd Showalter. Join me for the Right Mind Show on Saturday at 5 as I try to put some fun back into this wacky radio station. You know, and speaking of wacky, let's get back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
All right, so far so good when it comes to the demonstrations and protests, at least here in the St. Louis area. My understanding is it's something similar on the other side of the state as well. But what happens if things ramp up on Saturday, which is the big target day for the pro-illegal alien folks? Are things going to get ugly? We don't know. We know that there are some proactive steps being taken by law enforcement, but what should the state's reaction be? What should we be preparing for? We're going to talk about that here in just a second. It is 8:35. I'm Mike Ferguson. Got producer Jerome here. Don't forget that News Talk STL app got all sorts of great features, and you can, among other things, you can actually just send in your comments and voicemail right to us and not wait on the phone to do that. Just send it right in.
Yeah, I've been trying to call on people that I know are in these areas just to say, hey, 30 seconds, 45 seconds, however, something short, just saying, hey, here's what I'm seeing, here's what it's like, and then you can have your voice on the radio.
There you go. We're talking now with Lieutenant Governor David Wasinger. And Lieutenant Governor, great to chat with you again. Let me first, because when you and I were chatting yesterday, the special session was still going on and they were taking the votes. Well, now they've wrapped it up. Let me start with the disaster relief, the tornado relief. Most of that coming to the city of St. Louis, and rightfully so. That seemed to be one of the few areas where there just wasn't a lot of bickering. It really was a matter of, okay, what's the best way to make this happen? What's your assessment of that aspect of the special session?
I think that's a correct assessment. But Mike, if you don't mind, but before I get too far along, I'm actually on my way to Jefferson City. I'd like to invite you and your listeners. There's going to be a big ceremony in the Capitol today at 12:30 for the 250th anniversary of the Army. The adjunct general for the Major General from Fort Leonard Wood, Christopher Beck, and I are going to be laying a wreath and reading a proclamation. It'll be a great day to visit the Missouri State Capitol. It's the 250th anniversary of the Army. And you and your listeners, if not today, are always welcome to come visit in the Lieutenant Governor's office, room 224. But as to the special session, I came back and, we live in St. Louis. So we had damage at our house. And I drove, it's devastating. You drive through these neighborhoods, and I got the call of all calls on Tuesday night at about 5:30. The White House called me at about 5:30 in the evening, just as we were getting ready to sit down for dinner. Told me that walking out of the Oval Office, President Trump just signed emergency declaration relief, and they're giving Missouri $71 million. So I think that, together with what the Missouri legislature did, with insurance, with the, I think a portion of the RAM settlement, it'll go a long ways towards hopefully, trying to get some people back on their feet after these devastating tornadoes.
Yeah. And that's one of the things where if the reaction isn't quick and frankly correct, Lieutenant Governor, this could be the thing that devastates entire communities for generations. So how comfortable are you that Republican or Democrat that we're working together, public-private sector, to try to mitigate those losses? Because just tragically, that tornado seemed to just zero in on some of the areas that were struggling anyway.
Yeah, it really did. I think we've got a great team. In all candor, we've made a step up over at the mayor of St. Louis's office.
Yeah.
I think, she may not, I may not see together on a lot of issues, but Mayor Kara Spencer, I think, is a step up. So, yeah, Mayor Spencer, we've got a great U.S. Senate delegation with Eric Schmidt and Josh Hawley. And most importantly, we've got President Trump going to bat for us. Governor Kehoe has stepped up on this thing. So we've got a great team, both statewide and nationally, looking out for these interests. And even most importantly, the number of volunteers. I was over at the food bank our great Jason Tatum, our great Boston Celtics player from St. Louis, was orchestrating a food bank that Colleen and I went to. The number of volunteers, frankly, from throughout the state that have stepped up to help these tornado damaged victims is heartwarming.
We are visiting with Missouri Lieutenant Governor David Wasinger. I want to get to the possibility of the protest and whatever's going to happen here in just a minute. Let me follow up on the other part of the special session. Obviously, the biggest point of contention is the money for the stadiums in Kansas City. The governor made his case for his plan on this show. In all candor, I disagree. I think it's corporate welfare. But what do you make of the plan that was passed on for that's going to put about a $1.5 billion out there for the Chiefs and the Royals should they decide to stay on the Missouri side?
Well, and that part of the session, I don't think was not so special.
Yeah.
I think the winners on that part of the session are the Jefferson City lawyers. I think there's going to be a lot of litigation coming out of that piece of legislation. And the other big winner, and I'm a big St. Louis Cardinals fan, as you know, the owners of the St. Louis Cardinals didn't have to lift a finger, and they may be in the till for, a couple $100 million. So the two winners on that thing were the Jefferson City lawyers, in my mind, and the St. Louis Cardinal baseball owners.
Yeah, because was that part of a deal to try to get some votes for the Kansas City folks? Is like, well, here's a bone out for St. Louis as well, because that's what we've seen in the past when they were trying to do the football stadium here. They were trying to hand out goodies. I mean, this was 10, 15 years ago, whatever it was. But there's always like, okay, support this for us. So what do I get? And that's the way that it works.
Well, here was the big problem. The Missouri Senate, as with U.S., supposed to be a slow deliberative body. Like, I was supposed to gavel in the Senate at 10 a.m. last Wednesday. They began, it's the worst of Jeff City. A bunch of closed doors, a bunch of deals being cut behind closed doors. I ended up gaveling in the Senate at 5 p.m. I actually had run down to the Lake of the Ozarks, did a video commercial for a boat race it's going to take, came back, gavelled them in. They were negotiating this deal at 2 a.m. and they had been awake for 16 hours. Mm-hmm. Would you want a truck driver, being awake for 16 hours, driving a truck? Would you want a surgeon operating on you? It's brain fog and you're just not at your best. I spoke with a state senator 2 nights ago. He said if it had to come back to the Senate now, it would not pass. And again, it's a dream for Jefferson City lawyers. There's an issue called single subject, where you're not supposed to get into more than one subject. So what was happening that afternoon, and frankly in the evening, is what's called log rolling, where you roll in all these other logs into the bill, which, is, in my mind, is going to be a big issue. And, the Missouri Supreme Court and other states have addressed that. What they tried to prevent on log rolling is several matters not being rolled up individually to command a majority vote, doing sure passage of a bill. And then one of the things that was rolled in there is property tax relief.
Yeah.
Well, my neighbor in St. Louis, his property taxes went up 42% this last week. He got an assessment notice. Well, guess what's carved out of the bill? He's the big loser because under any scenario, he's not going to be giving tax relief like they tried to do in some of the counties. So I think it's a absolute dream for Jefferson City lawyers.
Yeah, and that's the thing is with the property tax relief on there that was negotiated, and that was a big part of the contention with Senator Bratton and the rest of the Freedom Caucus is that it doesn't cover every county. And most of the counties, as I understand it, it doesn't even guarantee property tax relief for them. They still have to vote on it and win the vote. So it just seems like we gave up a lot in this deal making process. And of course, then the team owners in Kansas City, they get $1.5 billion.
Well, it's a dream for Jefferson City lawyers. So you have equal protection arguments. You got single subject arguments. I mean, there's a litany. There's a severability clause. Mm-hmm. So if the money for the owners, remain constitutional, even the property tax owners that were given relief and those in the larger areas like St. Louis County, St. Louis City, were not given relief. That can be thrown out. You're still giving all these, remains. So like I said, the big winners on this deal were the Jefferson City trial lawyers and the St. Louis Cardinal baseball owners who didn't have to lift a finger to get a couple $100 million out of the Missouri taxpayers.
All right. Lieutenant Governor David Wasinger is with us right now. Last couple minutes I've got, David, we've got obviously kind of bracing for whatever is going to happen around the state regarding these. People are calling it anti-ICE protests. Let's be honest. These are anti-Trump protests is really what they are. We don't know if it's going to get violent here. We know there are some agitators who would love to see that. Governor Kehoe has set up kind of that joint command center to monitor things. How confident should we be in the response from law enforcement around the state, and what should the state's response be if things get ugly?
Well, I think we're a law and order state. President Trump is a law and order president. I'm actually going to be at the military parade with President Trump on Saturday. I envision a lot of protesters in Washington, D.C. But I think Governor Kehoe has had the right response to this. We've had, he's got a plan to cross the state with the Missouri Department of Public Safety, Missouri State Highway Patrol, and Missouri National Guard. They've established a unified command to monitor this situation on the ground. And, as Governor Kehoe said, we're prepared to assist local law enforcement in protecting our communities. We are a law and order state, and we intend on maintaining law and order in the great state of Missouri. We will allow peaceful protest, but we're not going to tolerate this violence and lawlessness by these radical leftists.
Okay, that's what I want to hear. All right, the Lieutenant Governor David Wasinger, thank you so much. Really appreciate you taking out the time. Be safe on the way to the Capitol today.
All right. Thank you, sir. Always a pleasure. All right. Take care.
Once again.
Bye-bye.
All right. Once again, Lieutenant Governor, and just go to, you can look him up real easy with everything they're doing in there. Yeah, that's the thing that we haven't covered a lot with that property tax thing that was supposedly part of the deal to give the Chiefs and the Royals and the Cardinals got some money as well. Is that the deal that was made on property tax relief? We don't get it in St. Louis County. It doesn't cover everybody. It covers 97 of the 114 counties, and 22 of those are guaranteed, but the rest of us, we don't get it, or it's not even guaranteed in the others. They would have to put it up for a vote, so it's not even something that gets me. It was just a bad deal all the way around.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
I've driven all over Washington, D.C. I cannot find the money tree.
On News Talk STL.
Rhino Shield is far superior to even the best traditional exterior house paint. Rhino Shield is 8 to 10 times thicker than paint and comes with a 25-year transferable warranty. Rhino Shield is the only ceramic coating company that has been chosen by Disney, This Old House, and 3 times on HGTV's Curb Appeal, where every episode is concentrated on unpainted brick, bonds and seals to stucco, wood, hardy, block, color lock, masonite, and more. No better product for those steel aluminum-sided homes that have become, chalky and tired looking. We coat sloped and flat roofs to extend their lives too. After 15 years, we've got a great reputation and a superior product. As long as it's affordable, why wouldn't you do it? Before you make the costly mistake of painting with traditional paint, you'd be best served to call Rhino Shield today. We are the experts and our evaluations are free. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com. Tell them, ladies.
Don't paint, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on NewsTalkSTL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Columbo here for my friends at Bluff City Outdoors in Alton. The knowledgeable staff at Bluff City has served the St. Louis outdoor community for decades, and they can take care of all your bow hunting needs, all your trapping needs, all your fishing needs, and more. Plus, while you're there, you can schedule a trip with a local fishing guide and shoot in their archery range. Bluff City Outdoors is open 7 days a week, 1 mile east of Fast Eddie's at 2813 East Broadway in Alton. Follow them on Facebook and at bluffcityoutdoors.com.
On the next Larry Connors USA.
Today, James Herson from Los Angeles, right in the middle of the riots.
Larry Connors USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Hi, it's Vic Porcelli.
And Ken.
Hi, Ken.
Hey, Vic.
Ken and I are on every Monday through Friday here on News Talk STL. Right now, you're listening to Mike Ferguson in the morning on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Whoosh, my morning people.
Let me follow up on what Lieutenant Governor David Wasinger just told us. And I just kind of left that there as we headed into that information segment. We were kind of stunned when the Freedom Caucus fractured and Senator Rick Bratton, kind of led the vote against that because it barely passed in the state Senate, that corporate welfare bill, and his argument. And he put a video up on Facebook. And again, I think Rick Bratton is a good guy. And I think, 95% of the time, I think he's right. I think he votes the right way. I think it's really unfortunate that he had to have a split from the Freedom Caucus because that's how bad kind of the Freedom Caucus firewall got broken with that. Now, the good news is Nick Schroer is now the chair, and he's going to take a much more not even so much more in your face, because Freedom Caucus is pretty much in your face, all of them. But I think he's also going to be very, very strong tactically as well, because here's the frustrating is not even so much that the Freedom Caucus got a property tax relief deal, because that's what Senator Bratton is arguing.
Mhm.
He says, well, but they were going to get the votes anyway, so I got this property tax relief deal. But he really didn't. I think he really tried to. But what happened is, and the numbers I've got to try to remember, I didn't write them down, but I think 22 counties, including the ones in his district, are basically guaranteed a freeze on some aspect of property taxes, whether it's rates or actual bills or whatever it is. So about 22 of those counties in the state are going to be guaranteed that specifically. Overall, I think 97 counties in the state are going to be allowed to give property tax relief for everybody. We're not talking about the senior one, but everybody. This is where it gets really complicated. But my understanding of the bill, the way I read it, is that they're going to have to put that on the ballot, go through the cost of an election, and win that vote. So even those counties aren't guaranteed. And the most populous counties in the state, including St. Louis County, are not included. So it doesn't do us any good whatsoever. But we're still the taxpayers and have to pay for those stadiums.
Yeah, and going back to WWF terms, there's a famous event called the Montreal
That's
Screw
right,
Job,
yes.
and that's because on the one hand, if you look at it as just a politician trying to do something for their area, it makes sense that there are going to be people.
Absolutely.
I think because it was a Freedom Caucus member, that's why it feels like such a staunch betrayal, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, that, and if the deal had ended up being every single Missourian has their property taxes at least capped.
Yeah.
And it affected everybody equally. I think that they could make an argument that this is the best we could do in a bad situation, but it's for some, but not for others. And the most populous counties get nothing on this, but the most populous counties are the ones that pay the most amount as far as raw dollars go for the taxes that come into the state. So it's just a bad deal. And if you're a member of the Freedom Caucus, you've got to be frustrated because it just takes one or two to break off when you say this is our key thing, because there are many issues that a different caucus, whether it's a Freedom Caucus, whether it's a Green Caucus, whether it's a Black Caucus, whether it's a Hispanic Caucus, a Women's Caucus, or whatever caucus, it doesn't matter. I mean, there are a lot of issues. They're like, do what you want. That's not our key thing. But then there's those every once in a while, those big things where you say we have to be that firewall. We have to stand firm. And that fell apart. And now taxpayers are on the hook for at least $1.5 billion. And I say at least because when was the last time one of these projects stayed on budget?
Exactly. Now, the other thing, too, because I do see online, at least, the entire caucus is getting pushed back and flack for this. And so I just want to reiterate, it's not that the caucus themselves, so it's not, they were just as shocked to find out about this, especially given that Senator Bratton was the one that issued the statement saying we're not going to do this. So I direct the anger and the frustration where it's deserved, but at the same time, I would still love to have Senator Bratton on here to explain why, the rationale, what he thinks this is going to do, give him a chance to at least speak for himself. But
which, by the way, he's been invited.
Okay.
I reached out to Rick. I have invited. I have not heard back, but that's all I can do is invite. But he is invited. He knows that he'll be. He's still a friend. He just, I think, blew it on this one. He would be treated respectfully and fair because 95% of the time he's right. He's with us. But man, this was a big one to swing and miss on.
Can't let, don't let sour apples spoil the bunch, so to speak.
Right.
But it does hurt because if this goes through the way it's supposed to go through, then we're on the hook for something. And we're not even going to get the benefit that was the temptation to get it past in the first place. So all I guess we could really do is if it does go through, then hope that
it's done.
Okay. So it has gone. So
it's gone through.
So I guess the best we can hope is that the sports teams really knock it out of the park this season. The next couple seasons, we see a positive return on investment.
Yeah. Because then what happens is all of that tax revenue that normally is, and again, I don't even mind giving tax cuts to the sports teams. If you give them to everybody, I want as low a taxes as possible for everybody, but this is a special deal to where they are simply collecting the tax dollars from the public, from their customers, and from their vendors and from their, frankly, employees. And then instead of forwarding that to the state, they're using it to pay off the bond. So, it's corporate welfare. It's just corporate welfare. There was a time when conservatives stood strong against that. That time is not now. Democrats, honestly, oftentimes are also strong against corporate welfare. So if there were a chance for a bipartisan big government thing to be beaten, this was it, but that vote wasn't even close. It was like a 50 vote margin. It was not close at all.
Wow.
Yeah. It's just really, really unfortunate, but that's the way that it goes, is that at some point word gets around, they're doing the head count. They're like, this thing's going to pass with or without me. I better get something out of it. So then the vote total becomes wider and wider and wider. And there are people who don't like it, but they're voting for it. But it doesn't matter what your intent is. You voted for it. So you should answer for that. But we also have most of the districts in the state are just clearly red or clearly blue. And there's very little accountability.
And I think the other side of the coin too is that it was very clear from every side of the aisle when it came to the voters for the most part. I mean, I could not find you a single time where somebody that was a tax-paying voter was like, heck yeah, I want my money to go to this. It seemed like everybody and everybody was against this except for those that were in that room that day. So I don't understand, because you can only say, like, we got to show up to the ballots, we got to write to these people. You can only say that so many times before people are going to start wondering, well, I've got some chicken feathers right here and I got some leftover, but
well, that's the thing, is in Kansas City for 25 years, there's the downtown, the businesses, the chamber folks, they have been fighting to get a downtown baseball stadium. I mean, that they've been wanting one. And then you've got the Chiefs and the Royals now basically saying, hey, all these other teams get big, fancy, brand new state of the art stadiums. We want that too. So what are you going to do for us? And in Kansas City, they have the luxury of having two states right next to each other that they can play each other off of. And that's exactly what they've done, which tells you that you may love your sports team. You may be a sports fan who loves the Chiefs, but as Patrick Tuohy said to the legislature, the Chiefs don't love you back.
Yeah.
We're just ATMs for them. We're just a wallet. They've made it very clear, pay up or we leave, even though they are phenomenally profitable and the business itself is worth over $1 billion.
Yeah, they better give out some free hot dogs or something. I'm just saying.
Wouldn't count on it. Wouldn't count on it. All right, Vic Forcelli coming your way here on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.